Virtually every one of the top 40 records being played on every radio station in the United States is a communication to the children to take a trip, to cop out, to groove. The psychedelic jackets on the record albums have their own hidden symbols and messages as well.
Special question. We don't want you to smoke genetically modified ganja. We want you to smoke the real thing. We want you to smoke the natural herb. Some call it marijuana, some call it sensimedia, some call it lamb's bread, and some people call it ganja.
Welcome to another edition of the Adam Dunn Show. I am your host, Adam Dunn, and I am here with nobody. Han Solo, hence the Han Solo, a title. Maybe around 5 o'clock, my friend will be rolling through Mr. Blake Wild. No, I don't think I ever had him on the show, but you know, I know everyone's like, Blake Wild, wait a minute, what strain is Blake Wild? I don't know, Blake. Sounds like a guy. Sounds like a good breeder name.
It does.
Not a breeder. He is an adventure sports guy. I'm basically like a Joe Rogan show now where I'm just bringing in random fucking things that I like. I like this guy. No, he is an action sports guy. He does the squirrel suits. He does rock climbing and parachuting and parasailing and whatever, anything and everything. Base jumping. He's that guy. And his name is Blake Wild for real. It's not like he made that up. So that's even more cool. But he's also helped us in the past with some hoodlum stuff. And we were trying to make a hemp squirrel suit at one point. That would have been cool. We didn't do it. It's too many. I don't want to be responsible for people dying wearing my gear. That's too much to deal with. But he's helping us now with our latest campaign, which is going to be the doggy lambs. So hood lambs for dogs. Actually, I got some upstairs, so if he comes through, we will bust a couple out and show off some of these models because
those are pretty cool looking.
They're pretty cool. There's some refinements yet, as anything. Tested them out. Went on to see D Money over at Incredibles the other day. Lily Bella, one of our supermodels. A little bit, she's not too fat by any means, but it was a little tight on her, so that means we need to adjust a little bit here and there. It's hard though, because every time you make a pattern and you try to go back to somebody and say, hey, can you just adjust a little bit? They get so fucking pissed off. I'll tell you. You'd think it wasn't their job or something, but also, let's see, who else we got? Do we have anybody? Not really, huh? We got a few possibilities. Mr. James Bean didn't know it was Friday, so that's one reason why. Because normally when he knows what day it is, he's on point. Today I had to call him up and find out that he didn't know it was Friday. So he was, what? You mean day after tomorrow, right? And I'm like, no, buddy, no. Also, as you notice here in front of me, some burly-ass shit going on here. Thank you, Brett, who called in last couple shows recently and out there in Grass Valley. I got the burl, man. I got the burl in the house. Nice, sweet, big, giant piece of burl. Came in the mail. Came safe and sound.
Super dope looking.
It is. Right away, because this piece, you're like, mushroom, plant, tree. It looks like all the above.
That's exactly. Well, I just watched a video on the magic truffles in Amsterdam, and
everything's a mushroom. Yeah, it kind of has that too. Yeah. It's like a brain, like a dissected brain look or something.
Right.
Oh, very close, very close. So thank you, Brett. I think he I would have hung it on the wall. I just didn't have time today, so just came fresh burl in the house. My name is Burl. That's what I entitled it right there when I got it. I was like, there you go.
Yep.
It'd be cool to make a guitar out of this stuff, I was thinking. Wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Like a good, come on.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it would be, I don't know about the resonance, and I'm not sure what the deal. Probably be good. I mean, it's a real piece of wood. It's not like it's some fucking bullshit.
It's funny. Some guys are really picky about all that stuff, and I just, if the thing sounds good, I'm good.
This burl's fucking my shit up.
Yeah. I'm one of those guys, the tone comes from your fingers type of thing.
Whoa, so. It's not from the actual instrument?
I could play a bunch of shit, and, I could play a shit instrument and make it sound pretty good.
Oh, challenge.
Ow.
Challenge accepted. It was a very, 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 very heavy show last week. I'm down to thank everybody who was involved. I know it was a tough one, timing-wise, but it was good while we were doing it because I really felt like this is stuff that has to get out there because, you see how quickly the news changes? I mean, it's like, well, what are you talking about, man? Fires? Where? Huh? Portugal? No, not Portugal. America, man, not Portugal. Did you see those ones in Portugal, though?
No.
300 forest fires going on there.
Jesus.
It's
Wow.
And then everyone's claiming laser weapons now. I'm a little bit
Laser weapons.
laser drones, bro. It has to be. I don't know. It seems a little bit much.
Right.
Though, being the conspiracy nut that I am, of course, I will never, ever, ever, ever go against the idea that the government could be doing something crazy. But in Portugal, they were showing burnt cows, and they were like only the cow burned and nothing else around it, and it's obviously HARP.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of crazy, but it is weird how many literally the biggest and the most ever all over the world. And it looks pretty hectic.
Yep.
But again, having that show was good because the news is moving so fast. It just takes one Trump stupidity thing to kill, just to knock out all the information that people were actually beginning to absorb from somewhere.
Right. Exactly.
Vegas is already years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
Wow, that was
already
3 weeks ago, bro. Yeah. It's we have so many disasters happening so regularly.
I was gonna say if anyone in the chat wants to call in and talk, you can hit us up on 720-310-8237.
You didn't have to look that up, did you?
I did.
Oh my God! You don't know by now?
No, I don't.
The way we did it was 720.
TADS.
TADS, but the 310 is easy because it's like a Cali thing. Yeah. So
I don't know.
Yeah, there you go. So we were trying to make it kind of easy from all sides.
Yeah.
Anyway, 310-8237. Don't forget the 720 in the beginning. Bam. Tads.
Yeah.
Yeah, feel free to call in. Brett can call in and talk about the Burl because he's, I'm sure, listening to the show.
Yeah,
and,
there's a bunch of people talking about it in the chat room.
About the Burl?
Yeah.
Oh,
they're trying to figure it all out.
Figure it out, man. Figure-minate it out. Look at that Burl. Look at that Burl. It's burly. It's just a slice. It's a sliver. This is awesome, though, because he makes tables and shit, and you can already see right away. That's the first thing I thought. I was like, man, I need a table. I need a Burl table now. Put a big thing of glass over the top of it. Beauty. So... You were checking out the news. There was some stuff I heard. Some things were going down in the weed world. Oh, I heard JDR. Speaking of the weed world, I heard JDR's coming back.
Yeah, I heard that too. I heard that by the end of the week, there's supposed to be something up.
Really?
Sure. Yeah.
End of this week, like today?
That's what I hear. Yeah.
Isn't today the end of the week?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Tim, what the fuck? What's going on?
I don't know. Yeah, I just saw.
The anticipation is too much to bear.
Yep, I saw his post and.
Yeah, that's cool.
But. Yeah,
I'm glad to hear, and that'll be starting. But is he literally going for an everyday thing again? Is he going to kill himself, or
I don't? Because I think
it's too much.
I think I saw a post saying that he might go I think it's a weekly thing. I'm not sure.
Good.
If not,
Tim,
or a really.
Let me just tell you, don't go for the daily. You will go right back into your spiral if you do that because it's just again, the daily thing is possible because there's so much crazy news going on, but you don't want to become that guy because then all you're going to end up talking about is politics and stuff because that's really what happens on a daily. The weekly is about right. Give yourself a little time.
Yeah.
It's just a word of advice from a guy who's been doing it a lot less time than you. So there you go. Great advice. So first thing you pulled up, which I noticed.
Let's see. So there's Colorado towns. In Rifle, Colorado, they are actually going to stop teaching the canines to smell out weed, claiming that
the whole town smells like weed.
Yeah, the whole town smells like weed.
Dogs are like, well, this town smells like weed, so therefore, yes, we'll just sit down next to everything.
Yeah. So basically, they're saying that because marijuana is legal in the state, that a dog alerting to drugs in general does not provide a legally sound probable cause for a search. So basically, dogs that get sniffed for marijuana get called into question more in the court and can make things more difficult. Yeah.
I'm sure they're making things more difficult in court. Right. Fucking dog. Stop making it so difficult. We keep asking you, did you smell the weed? And the dog's like, meh.
Yeah, so that's kind of local here in Colorado.
That's the kind of news we get in Colorado. Dogs will not be trained for smelling weed.
Yep.
That's cool.
So,
I mean, you gotta appreciate that.
Well, it's so funny. Like everyone that talks to me, they're like, "Aren't you worried about dogs smelling your car?" I was like, "No, man, it's legal. Like I don't, like."
Well, if you are smuggling, right? The biggest problem usually is you can, because a lot of people, it's their fingers on the door handles. That's what the dog's alerting to, because it's like, that's, you know what I mean? You're smoking a joint, you go to your door handle, and that's just like, that's where it's always going to smell like weed. If you're a guy who smokes weed, you know what I mean? So like if you actually smoke joints on a regular, that handle probably smells like weed 24/7. You know what I mean? It just doesn't matter if you smoked today, yesterday, whatever. It's just there's enough residue because of also the action of just going in there and, you know, the friction, you know. Imagine when you got like totally covered in resin fingers. I mean, sometimes my steering wheel, I'll be trimming and then I have to go somewhere and then I'll come back. It's just like, oh my God, get out there with alcohol, clean all your shit off. But your outdoor handles, nobody's cleaning that with alcohol. That shit's alerting every time. What else you got?
Let's see here. So,
this is the guy we were talking about with Jessica, right? Oh no, you jumped.
Yeah, I jumped around.
Jumping around.
Okay, so let's see here. It according to New Zealand's new prime minister, she said that the nation will hold a referendum over the next 3 years to legalize marijuana.
Now, is that legalized or is that like full across the board? Growing everything? Are they going to get into any specifics?
Arden said
Friday.
Friday.
Good weed down there for sure.
Yeah, they said Friday the country would hold a referendum on whether to legalize recreational marijuana at some point over the next 3 years. She didn't say whether she favored legalization, but said the current system wasn't working well.
The guy that's in Parliament there with the dreadlocks, you ever seen him?
No.
I'm sure if you look up New Zealand Parliament dreadlock, that's all you got to do, right? I mean, that's he's going to pop up. They have a guy who's been in there forever. He's super pro weed and pro hemp mostly, right? There you go. You found him. That wasn't too hard, right?
Yeah.
There he is. So what's his name?
Let's see. Nandor.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I
knew it was a weird name.
Yeah.
I knew it was a weird name. You don't have to hear it twice.
Yeah.
Nandor.
Yep.
Super cool. He's been there for a while, like at least 10 years, I think. And so if he's involved, you know which way it's going. Right? You're like, this is definitely going to be legal. And,
for sure.
Yeah, because he was coming over to Amsterdam back in the 90s, you know, so he's definitely been around.
Huh. Interesting. So, so that's kind of cool. Another place that I can go travel to then.
Well, yeah, and Rob Clark lives down there a lot of times too, so that'll be cool. He can finally enjoy himself there without fear of prosecution.
Right.
Is this the Lucky's?
Yeah, this is Lucky's Market, which is actually a natural foods chain backed by Kroger. Is actually, I think
I'm a big Kroger not fan, actually.
Oh, really?
Oh, don't like that company.
Interesting.
Never liked it. Don't trust it. Something bad about it. It's evil.
Interesting.
Just never liked it because of the fact that it's one of those ones where if they're when you go into whatever is a Kroger place, they'll have a brand that you like, and then if it starts to sell really good, it'll disappear and get replaced by a Kroger brand, and then they'll have their own version. And you're like, you fuckers did it again. And they did that because the thing is,
like completely replaced, like they won't sell the other one.
Yeah, well, or they'll bottom shelf it or slowly diminish it to the point where it's just there's never any there.
Yeah.
They'll order a lot less. It's so Kroger, I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm almost 95% sure, and you can probably look it up, but there's a company called Albert Heijn from Holland. And Albert Heijn is the huge chain, and they're one of the big families. It's like they are Rockefellers and stuff, the Heins, you know. Mm-hmm. Oh, Albert Heijn. And like, so, but that's their MO. 100%. Like, they fucked up everything that ever came through their place. If they got their hands on it, you could almost guarantee there's somebody in the back room redoing it, and they just do a shitty version of it, and you'd be like, fuck.
Yeah.
Because then it would really suck because you're in Holland, and every so often a certain brand. It was always stuff that now, as an adult, I'm like, well, probably a good idea that they did try to fucking change it anyway. It was all garbage, but they would just take whatever was successful, even like Sriracha, like, okay, do we really need to come up with a different Sriracha or just buy the damn same Sriracha that we all buy that we all like? Because sometimes you try other brands that are a little different, a little smokier, a little this, a little that.
Right.
Or if you like the fucking, whatever it is, the cock, the big red. What is it? What's the name of that brand? Who knows?
Sriracha, just
Yeah, but it's that one from California. Anyway, that brand.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not a big
well,
sriracha fan. So
Sriracha's the shit.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I'm not into
but
it.
if you go and you buy all these other different sub brands, a lot of them suck because they're just copies of and/or, just a little off. They'll
Yeah.
do that to everything. And Kruger does the same fucking thing. Fucking evil. Anyway. Fuck
Yeah.
it.
So I guess.
But
Yeah. So they have. So I guess in 25 stores across the nation, they are selling CBD oil, basically from CW hemp,
that's cool. That's
made from
I
Denver
mean,
CW hemp, and so yeah, they're just going for it.
That's good. At least it's made from Colorado grown CBD. It's not imported Chinese garbage because that would be lame if they did that, which I can imagine.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I
That's
got a
cool.
chat game question actually for you
What's
here,
that?
Adam.
How come I have no friends?
How come you have no friends? Yeah.
I know.
Go for it.
Tell me.
No, let's see. This one is. Can you ask Adam about the chocolate chunk, please?
That's it.
That's it.
Just about the chocolate chunk, like
That's-
storytelling. Time?
That's what it
Once
says
upon
here.
a time, there was a chocolate chunk plant. No, so chocolate chunk is. So originally, I got some stuff from I got a whole batch of stuff from Oregon back in the day in Amsterdam, and the chocolate chunk came out of that sort of project. And it wasn't because what I had was I had a bunch of stuff that I never really ended up working with, but there was, and everything was really almost overpowering in the flavor, like to the point where almost like I didn't like it because it was so. It wasn't that it was so flavorful. It was like when you get too much resin in your mouth at a certain point, it's like it's not fun anymore. You know what I mean? And I had a few strains that were like that, where they were real loose kind of buds, but thick and just ridiculous. And so there was one Afghani from Oregon that came in that batch. There was that one, and then there was another plant. It was like a creeper plant that grew kind of just sideways. Never grew straight.
Weird.
And that plant, I really liked it, and they had a very similar quality where both of them had that like smoke, like deep smoky kind of thing where you smoke a joint, you come back like 6 hours later, and it's just as stinky as it was when you left, even more sometimes. Or like the next morning when you wake up and you're like, dude, oh man, this is from last night. Like fuck, it's lingering to. They both had that quality in the flavors and in the way that they smoked. But the one of them, the creeper plant, the thing about it was like it would break off in sections really easily. Like you'd lose a branch all the time because the way it grew, instead of growing up, the branches kind of grew down, and then they were kind of easy to, like if you tried to lift them, because the plant would be all droopy, you try to lift them, they'd always break like right at the stem,
Yeah.
crack a little bit. So it turned into a fucking nightmare. So I got rid of all those plants, but the one Afghani that we kept, and this was from the guys who were giving me the snow bud, which I created the acorn from, and that was the same batch that we took. And what we did was we took the Afghani from that because there was 3 plants that came from there. There was that creeper plant, just an old school Afghani. It was the traveler guy that had picked it up, and he had was leaving me with a bunch of Afghani seeds that were raw. They were just like straight from Afghanistan. But that the one that I made the chocolate chunk from was what they had selected themselves in Oregon. So, but he gave me basically their selected plant, and then he gave me a shitload of seeds. And the seeds were the ones we grew on the roof in Amsterdam because we just went through them, and it was like the females were very leafy and not so great to grow. They were just kind of a bitch. And that's, I think, inherent where the breaking off branches and all that kind of stuff was. So we didn't keep much from that. And then we ended up keeping the males from that, and that's how we created the acorn, and the chocolate chunk all came from that same male. So it's basically like inbreeding. It's basically it's like a F2 Afghan, one from a pre-selected batch and one from a unselected batch. And the unselected batch, we did our own selection on the roof and picked out a male from that because we couldn't find a really keeper female that made us. But they all had the same kind of deep smoky thing, kind of, well, not even smoky, but kind of like deep and gritty or something. And so they then anyway, that was 95 or so, 96, 95, 96. And then then I think like Chocolope came out years later and got everyone confused more. It's one of those plants that confused the fuck out of everybody because when they hear the word chocolate, they think of chocolate Thai. But it has no Thai influence at all. It's all Afghan, just different time periods. Same region, different time periods. And it was from a guy that used to come through Amsterdam and just drop off seeds and hash and things that he would pick up in Afghanistan.
Gotcha.
If that answers any questions.
Sweet. Yeah, we got a couple other questions here if you want to take some questions.
Sure.
Let's see. Spring Hill Jack asks, the Airborne G13 used in MK Ultra, where did it come from and what did it add, etc.?
Came from Seattle, I believe, at the time of like the guys who came through and dropped it off to me. I'm not sure exactly. It was a West Coast. It was a Northwestern sort of traded clone. Very uniform structure. A lot of it's very greasy, kind of got a greasy vibe to it. And the thing about the all the G13s from that when we made the cross, it created very great weight ratio as far as like the size of the bud. Like you'll have small buds, yet they weigh a lot compared to the opposite, where you end up with these gigantic buds that you think are going to be the fucking winner, and then in the end they just dry up to nothing. It's kind of the opposite. These are smaller buds, tighter to the stem, but a greasy edge to it. That's one of the reasons we like that one. So now I have the G13 from the Airborne G13 still, but I got it back, and it seems more uniform and just one of the easiest plants to grow, which is awesome. It's like, it's not super heavy on the flavor. Like it's not like a big flavor imparter. It kind of has it's good flavor, but it's not sitting in those really crazy high tones or something where it's like, what is that?
Yeah.
But its structure, it's all about the structure. That's what it does for the plant. It really produces consistent, well-structured plants.
Nice. Cool.
There you go, Spring Hill.
Yeah. The next question is, when's the Sage Masta and Bodhi collab? How's that going along?
Good. Narrowed it down. Started off with about 36 different combinations going on, and I think we've narrowed it down to 6 and 8 total, like 6 Bodhis and 8 Sage Mastas, select ones, and launch will be officially at the Emerald Cup. Like that's going to be the official launch, and on Seeds Are Now site, of course, and and then in Europe, it'll kind of come right on the heels of that. It's interesting too because I'm getting feedback now in certain ones. It's like, yeah, it's exactly what I thought. Like we did some diesel, New York City diesel, and some underdog crosses, and those ones were like, they were too blown out. They weren't the ones that made it to the cut, but they made fucking great oil, and it was funny too because when I was looking at so Geek Farms, I gave some beans to, and I had people calling me up and saying, hey, did you see this? And then I'm like, yeah, just because they saw the JCP, and I was like, yeah, I gave those out. Those were just testers, and it's funny because they noticed the finished material color right out of the gate. Like they were like, as they were just scrolling through, they're like, oh, that looks familiar. JCP, what? It was like, kind of got them, threw them for a loop. But I was like, yeah, you can see different people making oil in different places. That was out of Oregon, and these guys were here in Colorado, and they were quite familiar with it because they've done some runs with it also. So they were like, huh, I just saw that color and was right away like, boom, is that it? So it's pretty consistent in that way. The male on the Bodhi seems to be very dominant, so it's kind of one of those, like, I'm going to take a lot less from that one than I thought, just because I want to keep it more variable. the F2s that we're doing now, do some tests with that. I kind of might. At first, I thought I was ready with the Bodhi one to put it out, and then I'm like, getting after the feedback, I was like kind of like knocking out. Oh, not that one, not that one, not this one. So it got to be less. So I'm like, is it enough to offer the whole thing, or maybe I'll have to do another round? But definitely Sage Master Select will be out, and probably a limited run of the Bodhi ones. I'll probably just do 10 groups out at first, and that way I'm not putting too much out until I get a few more runs. Because I like to, I kind of got halfway through a project and got kind of unfortunately halted on that one too. So it was one of those like out of my control.
Sure.
Can't do nothing about it. Got to wait on that one. So we actually got a little stifled on that one, but not totally. But the Sage Master Select in the end, it was like I did so many different combinations that now we're just waiting for the final results to make sure that we are putting out fire. That's the idea.
Awesome, man. Sounds good. There's a couple other questions if you want to take them.
Sure.
Okay.
Question to, and if you guys want to call in, you can always call in too.
Yeah.
Just liven it up around here, man.
For sure.
I'm all by myself.
720-301?
No, 310.
310.
8237.
8237.
See, I used to never remember 8237. That was killing me. I can remember TADS, but then I have to pull my phone out and look at the fucking, is that it? Which one?
Right.
Like, God, how can you not remember? 8237.
Let's see. They asked, do you ever clone, and what cloning gel do you use?
Of course, you have to clone. Everybody has to clone. Everybody needs to get comfortable cloning just because, you got to back your shit up. That's the most important part.
Right.
And if you're going to give somebody a copy, you want to give them a good copy, so you don't want to be a bad. Like, it's funny, too, because a lot of people are really good growers, but then they have some sort of, like, hang up when it comes to cloning. And I've gone through it, too, where it's just like all of a sudden you're just like, they're just not good. Like, they're just not easy. And then you have other people that aren't really great growers, but they fucking nail it on clones.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like they're two different conditions. So when you're making, so for me, for instance, I actually like dip and grow like liquid, even though it's, ornamental use only or whatever. I'm talking about clones here. And almost all cloning gels and powders are pretty much hardcore enough that they're not going to say for food use anyway, So they're all for ornamentals if you look at it that way. The thing I like about the liquid though is when you're cutting a lot of clones, especially if you're cutting just one or two, gel's fine, or not one or two. But if you're doing 100 or whatever, gel's fine. But it's kind of expensive. You go through a lot, and what I noticed with the gel is that it's like you open it up and it's all nice and fresh. And you're like, yeah, great. And then about the third or fourth round of cuts, the color is a bit darker. It's a little runnier. It's a little less jelly. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then, so for me, it's a little bit like, I don't know. It feels like it's better if they were smaller packed, and you could just like go through them quicker, and then not have them. Because I never buy like a giant thing of Clonex, because guaranteed it's going to go weird before you get to the end of it. Yeah. So buy the smallest amounts, which then is a little more expensive. So when you do the liquid, you got to mix it like 20-1. So you're looking at like, if you have a 32 mil, then you're looking at 640 mil worth of clone juice. And then the thing is, when you cut it fresh and you drop it into liquid, it instantly sucks up a good portion up into the bottom of the clone too. So it's like it's actually inside and outside and ready to go, and starts doing what it needs to do, which is soften that tissue and make it possible for the roots to pop out. With gel, sometimes you'll stick it in. If people tend to just like dab it in there like this, and that's not the idea. You gotta roll it, because whenever you like clog up the bottom of that clone, you cause a lot of times there's no action going on anymore. So you roll it in it so it goes around more of the outside, less on the inside. But with gel, it's really hard to do that because you just it coats it. And the thing that gel's really good for is if you have a cloner, like if you're using an easy cloner, then you got to use gel, because it helps seal the bottom a little bit and keep them from dehydrating out of the gate or being a little bit less. Whereas, but if you're in rock wool or root riots or those kind of things, then the liquid works really well. It's just good it's cost effective. Plus, it's alcohol based, so it's kind of like you feel like you're sterile every time when you're dipping it in.
Yeah.
You got that like medicinal sterility thing going on, and that's kind of what is the biggest problem with clones is cleanliness. So if you have a dirty start, then especially if you see somebody pour it into the cap. Well, the worst is if people take gel, they pour it into the cap, they use it, and then they pour the rest back into the thing. It's like, like that's just instant contamination, and that happens a lot. That's why I don't like to use gel. I mean, if it's my own, obviously if it's your own, you're gonna know if you did that or not. But when someone hands it to you, I'm always like, ooh. If it's been open, I'm always like, nah, I don't trust it. It's just like, I know the tendencies of people.
Yeah.
It's like watching people double dip on their crackers or something. Like, dude, didn't you just bite on that and now you put it back? Oh, dude, just don't do that.
That's funny. Cool.
So that was it for the question world?
No, there's one more.
Where's Brett? That's what I want to know. Where the hell's Brett? Brett, call in. Mr. Burl. I'm sure he'd be like, wanting to know if Burl made it on time.
Yeah, right.
It's here. What's the last one?
Let's see. We got. They're asking if you have any tips on perpetual gardening, and
Don't do it.
and plant training for yield.
Okay. Perpetual gardening sucks. Problem is that, and this is something it's kind of like I wasn't aware of up until a few years ago, and then I was like, oh, okay, that makes some sense. And if we could ever get Colin back on the show, he 100% will attest to it because he's the ethylene guy. It's all about the ethylene. With cannabis, when you're near harvest time, there's so much going on that's not visible to the naked eye that's going on in your room, right? So, you know how people tell you, like, oh, if somebody kills a plant, the other plant's crying, and it's true. There's a lot of going on vibration-wise. Even more when it's about like maturation of your plants. So what happens is you got like 40 plants in a room, and you're going to harvest. Your idea is that I want to harvest 4 of them 4 to 5 every week, and then that's going to be perpetual, right? So then you're going to have new ones going in, old ones coming out, new ones going. If they're actually in the same room, then it is kind of like, if you think about it too, it's like put a bunch of kids around a bunch of adults and don't expect them to become like, they don't go through the normal stages, they go straight to adulthood, you know what I mean?
Wow.
And so the plants are kind of like that too. They're like, wait a minute, so you mean when you're older you do that? Oh fuck, well, and we're old, we're doing that. And so your plants will mature too quickly. You'll get like red hairs coming in and plants maturing faster than they need to because of their response to the ethylene in the room, because of the plants are now putting that out.
That's pretty crazy.
So in a way, you fuck yourself up without knowing it. And so when you have, and you kind of see it too, when you have a plant when you have a lot of different strains in a room, it's hard to time it because as one's coming down, the other ones sometimes are not as easy to identify because normally you'd identify them all at the same time. So you're like, oh, okay, I see they're all swelling, they're all doing this, they're all doing that. Sometimes if they're pre-swell and they're already getting red hairs, that's like the worst. I hate that. Like that's like, you got a plant, it's growing really good, you're all happy, and then all of a sudden it just like poops out. You're like, what the fuck? And that's, can just be the genetics. It can be just the plant the way it is. I mean, there's a lot of times certain things that just don't really fulfill their needs, maybe because you weren't at the right conditions. But if when you start putting like a lot in the same room, you can kind of almost guarantee that you're getting false positives.
Wow.
And your plants are tricking each other into maturing at a shitty rate.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, so don't do it. And if you do it smart, where it's like perpetual harvest, but yet room is divided in some way, shape, or form.
Gotcha.
Like, yeah, you can harvest every week, but you probably every 3 weeks want to put them in a different area. You know what I mean? So that they're kind of like all in the same area, and then divide your rooms into 3 weeks instead of so that you take your room A and you take 8 plants out of this room, and you put them in. Oh, we've got Jessica calling in. Maybe let me see. I'll text her to tell her.
Text her the show phone number. It's funny, Namaste had a pretty funny comment. He was like, I play country music for the plants in the same room as a rosin press in the corner, and they seem unaffected by the pending doom.
It's true. But at the same time, I don't like to smoke weed around my plants too much.
Interesting.
Anyway, just because it seems to be a little It's a little. I mean, yeah. It seems a little dirty. First of all,
Sure.
It's like don't really need to smoke anything around them. They don't want to smoke.
Makes sense.
But it's also a little bit like kind of. It's like this is what's going to happen right here. You know what I mean? Let me see. You want to call in on? Let's see. 720-310-8237. Now, the hard part is to actually type it in right, because I usually type it in. We'll see if she calls in.
Cool.
That's a show. Instant show. Boom. Jessica, cheesecake, hours. No interruptions, because last time we had a whole bunch of people in here.
Right.
And it was funny, too, because later... Thing is that with Jessica, it's always the same. Like, we all know her. So we know she's going to be loud, and we know she's going to be a little rough here and there, but at the same time, it's also a lot of good information coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And then other people, sometimes they get a little bit, and then they hear, here she comes. And we have an instant show. There you go. Well, how's that?
What happened?
Now we have a show. You're here. I mean,
Hello.
you saved the day as usual. So we fucking.
I'm so glad to be that position of last resort. It's like just like my love life.
Actually, you're more like our first resort of last resort. There, so it's not even the worst thing. You know what I mean? We literally just were like,
no. I mean,
so who's coming? Nobody. Who could pull this off?
I know, but one of these days I'm going to work up into a slot of a scheduled fucking guest whose life is scheduled, and not somebody who just happens to have wandered in. I just wandered in from the yard where I was moving dirt around and was going to do some bong hits and saw that you had called, and I was like, oh, it's fucking Friday, I guess.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, thank you for that.
This is the level of calendar worship that I do on weeks when there's not big politics for me to cover.
Well, there always is, but I guess you can take a break once in a while, right?
No. I mean, it's just that there wasn't anything I had to do today.
Okay, just today. But
yeah,
I'm sure next week. So lots.
Next week is another fresh whirlwind.
Yeah, lots has happened, and always does every time between the times we see you and whatever. I mean, I think what I noticed was a huge crackdown on busts going down everywhere. It seems like Colorado's just decided it's now fine to go bust everybody they can in any way, shape, or form, and you're like, wow, what? We're kind of going backwards here a little bit. Yeah, obviously you.
Well, were you following the emerging news about now that Aurora is now adding prison times to a municipal code violation for plant count?
I did see that yesterday. So I think Jetter might have posted it or something.
Yeah, we were fussing because we couldn't share that. So finally, at the end of the day, everyone was able to share that damn post.
Yeah, it sounds like a little cash grab there too, and a combination of get people in prison grab.
Well, I'm going to use that statement, which a fair amount of people in this community probably saw, at least posted and bandied about yesterday.
Hold on one second, Jessica. We got an intruder. Let's see who it is. Welcome to the Adam Dunn Show. Who we got?
Yeah, this is Brett.
Oh, I knew it was going to be Brett. Sorry. So Jessica, Brett just sent me a beautiful burl, big hunk of burl. Too bad you're not here to enjoy the burl, but. Thank you, Brett. It made it safe and sound.
You're very welcome. I know I told you I was sending you a table.
It's okay. I'll get a table later, baby.
I saw that blank spot behind you, and I said, boy, that will draw a lot of attention. Not that I'm trying to turn up any business. I mostly give them away. I should be selling them, but I don't know. I really enjoy people getting them and displaying them.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Now I'm jealous and I want to see this.
Oh, you need to turn on your computer or something. But it's it's a gorgeous.
I only have the ability to share my love with you by phone
that's fine.
From my household. There is no Wi-Fi or computer out here in the beautiful sticks.
That's
but
good.
I am going to do a bong hit while you chat with this gentleman.
Sounds good, Jessica. Yeah, no, it's a sweet piece of burl. It looks like a tree or a mushroom, or everybody right away says it's like, oh, is that a tree? Is that a mushroom? I'm like, it's a fucking piece of burl. That's what it is. Make up your own mind. Then somebody saw a face on the other side. They're like, that's a big face. So there you go. It's not even tripping yet.
Enjoy it.
Not even tripping yet, and it's already turning into faces and things. But so thanks for that. And I heard. Also here's some news for the world, which I posted yesterday. Is that apparently out of nowhere, High Times has decided to do a Cannabis Cup in Amsterdam, 30th anniversary next month. I'm like, what? Like, hey guys, a little warning.
So basically, that excludes anybody who has to plan or budget to take international travel into their fucking.
You're fucked. You're going to pay
schedule.
like $10,000 to go to the Cup if you want to do it now, because it's
You
going
would
to be.
think it was a joke if it wasn't true.
Well, it's kind of the same thing, isn't it? When you start talking about high times,
it is.
you're like, I talked to Matt and I was like, oh, that sounds great, Matt. Yeah, cool. And then all of a sudden, when I hung up, I was like, he cannot be meaning like next month. He's talking next year, right? And then I called him back and he's like, oh no, next month. I'm like, dude, no one's going to show for that. That's fucking stupid. You know what I mean? I was like, who?
What about the policy there? Are they going to allow everything to go on? Wasn't there issues in the last few?
Well, the thing is, they're not going to do the expo because what really happened, and then I found out the real story was, in classic High Times fashion, they didn't really even plan a cup. What they did was they found out there's another cup going on there called the Unity Cup, which started in a reactionary terms of the locals saying, fuck, we don't need High Times, we can do our own cup. So they did their own cup called the Unity Cup. Then High Times just basically hijacked it, is now going to call it the High Times Cannabis Cup, and use their dates and use their entertainment and everything, and then, I don't know, partner up with them. So I was like, it sounds so typical. I was like, Jesus Christ, guys. So anyway, I won't be there. So don't expect it to be a true 30th anniversary. 31st will be better anyway.
Hey, Adam, I have a question for you. I'm wondering if other people know. What is it that you're smoking when you're doing your dab hits? I'm curious. What do you smoke?
Right now I'm smoking some sage BHO made by a friend of mine from who's been on the show. I think he's physically been on the show. Is Soap Man. My man Soap Man made it for me. So this one's made with actually made with ether though. So I did it. He went old school. He went old school. He's like, well, if I was going to make hash, what extract would I use? And so,
the newest craze here in the last 6 weeks that taken over in the concentrate industry is the sauce / sugar. And I mean taking over 75% of the market. Mm-hmm. It is really terpene powerful. I can say that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the sauce is awesome
when done correctly.
No, the sauce is great. Normally that's what I'd be smoking too, but I'm out of sauce right now. So.
Well, I want you to know that I got some sauce from, believe it or not, it was DNA genetics grown by Crockett.
Yeah.
It was, and I have to tell you, the terpenes are. I've never experienced anything like it, but it is dose-y-dose.
Yeah. Well, Crockett knows how to grow for sure. So.
Oh yeah.
That'll help. So yeah, we'll be definitely seeing you at the Emerald Cup, Brett.
All right. Well, listen, it was good speaking with you. And as I said, I didn't send that for you, Adam, for you to try and bolster any business for me. It was
no, it's
purely
cool.
just a gift of love.
I love it. It's awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
My wife was like, that's exactly what my dad would have in his house, and he's like an old hunter.
Oh, well, the table that is coming to you can bring to your home then.
Okay, awesome. Look forward to it.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Brett. All right, Jessica. We're back. See, whenever you're on the show, whenever we're on the show with you, just people come, like, they just want to be on here all of a sudden. It's happened every time.
Yeah, it's my magnetic fucking personality. That, or they're like, if I get on there, she'll stop fucking talking about politics.
Exactly.
You know, one of the two possibilities. But either way, you know.
A little of both, I would say.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it when I'm on there in person, they just want attention from my tits. When I'm on the phone, they just want to shut my fucking political.
Right.
You know, I don't blame anyone for wanting to shut me up, but
well, we need to know. Inquiring minds want to know, that's for sure. So, what is this whole coming around the corner January 12th point count bullshit? That's what I want to know. Is it for real?
You're asking what's going to happen when the legislative session starts because we're getting to the end of all the interim bullshit?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want to know about... So here's what we're going to do. We're going to fucking cover all the bullshit that's happened since I talked to you last. At least most of what I think is noteworthy or is going to have an impact on people. I'm going to go back to what I was rambling about before your charming friend, called in to offer some insights about the world of extract smokables.
There you go.
Which basically is what I'm working on. I'm working on getting to the point where we can have talks about that and not have to talk about what I was going to tell you. Going back to what Warren Edson had been saying about the changes in the sentencing policy for municipal code violations, which should never carry any kind of jail sentence. at least not on a first offense. They are now have decided that they're busting too many mid-level grows, so they want to send a message, so they're carrying a jail sentence with any kind of more than 12 plant grow. This is in advance, well ahead of the enforcement of the 1220 bill, which will start on January 1st of this coming year. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But what I want to kind of say is that this change, where they changed the municipal code to 12 plants to match what they were anticipating from the state in advance, is coming out of the group that I talk about all the time, CCI and CML. That's the Colorado Counties Incorporated and Colorado Municipal League. And this is, and I continue to just keep harping on this issue, the number one enemy of cannabis consumers in the United States, or at least in Colorado. But these are municipal leagues that are operated under, they're operated on a national scale. So this is a lobbying arm of the governor's office that is definitely not part of the Democratic Party. And it's sort of more of a, no matter who gets elected, this group is going to keep pushing their agenda, which is basically a three-pronged agenda. It's about prisons for profit, it's about fracking for profit, and it's about law enforcement lobby and basically doing whatever law enforcement wants to run roughshod on the citizenry. And that is really about taking money for civil asset, and they fight anything civil asset forfeiture related. So this has been something that I keep talking about, and people keep being like, you're talking about something so boring and it's so esoteric, and it's this policy-making group that's behind the scenes. But this is the group that has changed every county to these specific narrow plant counts, specific narrow grow room restrictions, and originally these were all municipal code violations. Now they're bringing in teeth and they're applying jail sentences for their for-profit prison crony buddies. This is what I have been warning about all along. So basically, I see this as this was actually part of their summer conference that I warned people about on your show probably back like in June. And I was up in arms about it on your show months and months ago, so we can go back and listen to some historic episode, and I'll be like, there was this summer conference where they gave all of these lobbyists for this big industry bullshit and private prisons and voting machines and Vicente Cederberg, private access to all of the 64 county commissioners in the state of Colorado, which is super, super corrupt and violates the Sunshine Law. And so this whole thing has been like going on, and now we get to this point. This is really interesting timing when we look at the situation with 1220. And, we talked a little bit about how the people that supported 1220 are fucking bitches, and they continue to be. The trial is going on right now for Jack Split. His mom testified in favor of 1220. His caregiver is on trial right now for being arrested on the day that he was, killed by his nurses. I mean, his nurses gave him 2 doses of phenobarbital in a 1-dose period of time. That's what killed him. And so basically, you've got these people who are completely absent. They haven't gone to any of the trial dates or anything, and they're moving forward on their political agenda and their political career, but they thought, oh, well, this is just going to, change the amount of plants you can have. No, this is actually going to come with serious jail sentences, because now these municipal codes are being changed to carry jail time, so there will be no first-time slap on the wrist. People will go to jail on their first offense for having a 7th plant in flower. And I know that sounds stupid, but that is basically the goal, is to discourage people from wanting to grow at all. And this is exactly what happened when alcohol, after Prohibition, when it became big companies and pushed out all the little small mom and pops and private manufacturers, is that they basically made it completely undesirable to make your own, and stigmatized it. And when basically, when we have the situation where, so this will just bring us right back around to the med rulemaking. The same day of the pretrial, where the sentencing and the jury trial dates were set for Mark Peterson and Ron Niehaus, was the med rulemaking. Literally, I could have left my car at the parking lot for where I was in the morning at the rulemaking and walked across 2 highways and then over to the trial for Mark and Ron quicker than it took me to drive around 2 exits on the highway to get back over across to the Jefferson County Courthouse from the Meds Gaming Building offices. So, like, all of this happened in Golden. Mm-hmm. I'm the only person who left the first event to go to the second event. Everyone else was just like, fuck that caregiver, fuck that guy, and, you know, he had no plants and just had weight and was basically processing it for a patient on site with full, who basically cannabis didn't contribute to the person, you know, who died. And so that was not part of the investigation. This was just a law enforcement overreach to charge somebody for charging somebody's sake. And, you know, while these guys are being charged across the street, the industry is saying, oh, well, we just want to keep blasting down the same thing that fails pesticide test after pesticide test until we can pass a test. And then we want to be able to sell it with no labeling saying how many tests it failed. And the whole thing that I had talked about breeding, so this will go back to what we talked about the last time I think I was on the show, where I was saying that this bill was going to be screwed by the industry people, and that this bill that was supposed to be a sort of emergency cover umbrella for caregivers who were doing breeding programs where they could get this cheap entry-level license was being perverted by the rulemaking process. And you'll be shocked to learn that that's exactly what happened. And they ended up making 2 classes of licenses out of it. One is like kind of a medical research license. The other was kind of a growing for this medical research license. And more pages of the classes of the research license have to do with pesticides. There's still no talk about any kind of clean breeding clean growing program or organic or anything like that. Yeah. There's no talk about how we're going to eliminate more pests. The threshold for microbial test failures has now been raised yet again. So they're basically, I mean, it's like you could mop a floor and put a dirty mop on the Petri dish, and it would pass the state standard for goddamn, you know, microbial for cannabis.
They just want to keep things moving, so.
Because there's no excise in throwing something away. And every time that it gets processed, they get paid excise. So basically, if somebody wants to keep trying out of misguided greed, the state is all about it. But, you know, some interesting things are happening. So basically that went on, and they basically made it to where there is now an internal review board. So I'm going to tell about this. So there's this internal review board that will get to determine if you can have more than 12 plants. Now, this class of license that I'm talking about is this research breeding license or research growing license, same thing, or the medical research license, which is to do medical human testing on patients. Or on pets, or on pesticides on a plant. So you can get a pesticide approved for the industry. So there's more focus on getting a new pesticide approved for the industry and there's not any focus, not one page or word of focus on getting an organic program approved for the industry.
Right.
Which I think is kind of fucking telling.
Sure.
One thing that listeners of your program, who are all people who are interested in growing and are involved in the seed project, seeds will no longer have to have any kind of labeling about whether or not they were produced with what kind of chemicals or whether or not they were grown organically or what kind of soil they were grown in. Seeds will not have to have any of that on their packaging label the way that flour or other cannabis products do. And why I think that is interesting or matters is that basically you're no longer going to be able to look at the package and be like, oh, they femmed that, you know, like.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you have to list that you're using like colloidal silver or gibberellic acid in the process or something like that, for sure.
Right, but I mean, I feel that this is shit that
might be interesting.
People who are going to want to grow a product are entitled to know. And if we're entitled to know if something is grown in, you know, I mean, we saw the story that was out on the news this week about the bush that was up in California with the people growing with human feces. Yeah. If we're entitled to know what our product was grown in, we're entitled to know what the seeds were bred in as well, in my opinion.
Sure. I mean, I don't think anybody...
Some people only want to garden with organic seeds.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever really seen that many people specifying on their packaging. You know, we put it in we put that
but
where...
they are supposed to.
Yeah.
I think the seed packaging has not been well regulated. That's my point.
I don't think it has been regulated at all, has it? I mean,
No. Now it will be, but it's going to be pretty interestingly lax. It basically doesn't have to give you any provenance or anything. It just has to give you a name that they made up, and that's it. No genetics, no background, no history of whether or not that seed may have been exposed to chemicals that you don't want in your garden. I don't freaking know. You know, there's enough stuff there that I think people at least should know or pay attention. And I think good quality people will be able to market themselves and set themselves aside by giving that information and having it be solid information.
Yeah.
But I digress. So the breeding will now basically be conducted by a lab. And this research class of license will be able to send products to the lab for analysis. But somebody like you wouldn't be able to say, hey, look, this looks pretty good. Let's check this out. It smells pretty awesome. Kind of looks like an, orange orangutan and smells like an armpit, and I'm super stoked on it, and I'm going to try it,
Mm-hmm.
And that will not be the determination of plants for genetic future breeding. The lab will. And I think that is, it may prove they may prove better than us, but I think we're not always just breeding for the most of the this or the that. It's sometimes it's about the esoteric nature of an undiscovered phenotype, and I worry that this is being taken away. I mean,
so what about people? What about people who have already have a license for recreational or medical or whatever? Can they can't breed in their own facility now? Is that what you're trying to say, or is that part of the deal or not?
No, I believe that they can. I believe that this class of license has been ruined by basically the industry having their head so far up their ass they have no idea what they're doing, and by basically the fact that the state didn't appoint anybody who had sat in any of the hearings about the bill to the rulemaking panel for the bill. So nobody who had any experience about what the bill's intention was there. So basically they used their interpretation to write a bunch of stuff about creating new pesticides and, didn't have any understanding about how a breeder might use a facility because they're a bunch of suits.
Mm-hmm.
They were picked for a rulemaking process, So they basically are like, well, we'll get all the breeders under our thumb with this lab, but there's no way for a breeder to, you can't sample the product on site. That's part of the state rules for a facility, right? And so they applied that, of course, to, a breeding facility. And it's like, well, you can't sample it there. You can't send it outside of metric. You can't send it to yourself in metric.
Yeah.
And you can't sell anything from a breeding facility, which means there's no way for you to get back a hold of it once you sent it to the lab. You can maybe send it to a medical testing facility where a patient who's vetted by internal review board, which was what I said we were going to talk about, to make sure that there's no conflict of interest of a personal or familial relationship between the breeder, and that patient, which means your friends and your family that you've been providing for as a caregiver no longer can get cannabis that you grew in your research breeding facility for them specifically because you now have a conflict of interest between you and their internal review board. But
sounds
this class
highly convoluted. Sounds highly convoluted right there to do.
Now I'm gonna. So that's like we're making a layer cake of convoluted. That's the chocolate layer. Now wait for some vanilla icing between layers because here's that. Here's a little whitewash of vanilla icing. That class of license that I just described and all the awesome nuances of it will cost you exactly the same as an entry-level class of license where you could grow 1,800 plants to sell.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, right?
Right. So that's great. But wait, vanilla icing, more awesomeness. The caveat is that class of license that will cost you the same as 1,800 plants that you can sell to the marketplace for recreational purposes. That same cost of entry-level license will allow you 12 plants, the same as you could have in your fucking house.
Yeah.
Unless big asterisks, you get approval from the state's internal review board for your medical specific need of your breeding program for some other medical facility. So somebody who's going to do testing with your specific product. Or you have to compete with somebody who can just give cannabis away from a licensed existing facility that's already licensed and owned by the state. Basically, so Medicine Man could give a bunch of moldy bullshit to a fucking medical test for free, or they'd have to buy it from you from your breeding facility so that you could have money to get out of your breeding facility, which is bullshit. Anyway, I digress.
That's not going to make you. That's not going to make you anything anyway. It's like peanuts.
No. So there's no way to make money on it because your competition can give weed from their for-profit facility away for free.
Right.
And this research license would have to get this approval to have up to 500 plants, so you would still only have less than 30%, like 28% of what you could have for retail purposes, which you could still breed under, with the same restrictions that you can't take it or smoke it or try it or anything, but labs to test it.
Well, you can get it back. You can buy it back if you can sell it, right? So
this is true. You could that is valid. That is a much more valid statement. So I hadn't even really put it under that perspective. So it is
which
more,
is rough. Which is going to probably get you to the finish line quicker because if you have to buy back every fucking sample that you ever grew to make a decision, you're not going to want to go through too many rounds. You'd be like, all right, that's it. I already spent like $600 trying to figure out what this fucking thing is.
To wrap up, last Friday I should have probably just came on your show after I wrapped up all my meetings. But last Friday I went to the hearing at the CDPHE, where Dr. Ken Gorsham, who's like basically Larry Wolf's like, Igor to his Frankenstein, told us that because the legislation didn't give the CDPHE money for the Internal Review Board to grant people more than 12 plants, they won't actually fight for that money until 2018, which is what you asked, what's going to come up legislatively. And then they won't actually get any money until 2019 budget money. So they don't plan to even start an Internal Review Board that would grant anybody up to those 500 plants until 2019. But this is supposed to be, according to Dan Pabon, the legislator who sponsored the testing bill, this emergency umbrella where caregivers can keep their plants before they have to cut everything down to 12 plants so that they don't lose their breeding genetics, which is all fucking bullshit and smoke and mirrors and fucking lies as usual. So basically, like, I don't know, that kind of to me just ties everything back together that, like, the sponsor of the bill who said that we should have a 12-plant cap in our residence then turned around and said that this testing bill would allow people who have these, entry-level, really cheap, like $500 cost license for somebody to have a commercial facility to breed in so that they could have state licensing so that they could get their caregiver spot into a commercial space because nobody can rent a commercial space without state licensing. But the industry saw that as competition, so they pooped on that and said, no, let's make it real expensive and give them nothing but 12 plants until they can get approval 2 years from now.
Who's going to survive that? Who's going to survive on 12 plants, right? I mean,
not some of our friends that we know and love, who are breeders who are really working on interesting and truly not super profitable, not super high yield plants, but, plants that are medicinally high value. And those are some of the people that I consider some of my very best friends. And, I'm honored to work with people like that, but I'm working legislatively to give that person a fighting chance to keep the, 10, 20 years of breeding stock that they've worked on in play. And that's what I'm fighting for, because that's what's important for patients. That's what's important for breeders to have their plant counts. And so, that's kind of what I've been working on. But, to me, it's like a travesty that this licensing that was supposed to allow that to happen has been perverted into some opportunity to test a bunch of pesticides.
Mm-hmm.
And come on, like, we're just going to keep a paraquadding down our population until people start to say that weed is unhealthy and it looks like cigarettes, because tobacco, Indian native tobacco, wasn't what a pack of Marlboro Lights is today, and
I was always like, if somebody takes a backwood and fucking gets that lab to test it, they're going to be like way over the limit on everything that we've get, parts per billions. I mean, they'll be doing parts per millions where we have parts per billions, and all the way up to scale. I can only imagine. So, love to see this. Love to see some tests on some other alternative smoking things.
But I will now wrap up, unless you have more time that you have to kill. I don't know what your agenda
we got the whole show today. I got one guy coming in maybe now. We'll see if Mr. Wild comes in, but if not, you are...
Oh, damn.
Is that
Well, I
Mr.
thought
Wild?
I was like ending up, like I thought the show had started at like 3 and it was 5 and you were going to end on
Whatever. Just
hurry my ass.
go
So I was
for it.
trying
You
to
can,
hustle
let's
in
hear
on
the misery. Bring it on. Is that Blake
No.
Wild?
I was saving some good fucking news, you twat bag.
Okay, keep it coming.
So basically, I went to this meeting at the CDPHU last Friday, and it was awesome. I have all the graphics from it and the presentation from it, which from this professor at CU, Cinnamon Binwell is her name, and she was like, middle-aged, cool lady, but like average middle-aged lady from Boulder kind of chick.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I had all these preconceived notions that it was, these people were going to be lazy, they were going to have poor memory, they were going to have poor motivation, they were going to have poor life skills, poor coping skills, etc. About cannabis, because she's a clinical researcher.
Right.
And in 2009, she got approved by NIDA, which is, the Ole Miss weed, to do an initial study of 24 males, about memory, motor function, etc. And then that study was reapproved for her to be able to do a blind study with a dispensary partner to, to be able to get cannabis from Colorado, so it wouldn't be that Ole Miss weed.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be what LV and
Well, it's usually that shit like 3 years old. Isn't that like always like 3 years old minimum, or sometimes 10 years old and some crazy like just.
Yeah, I mean it's whenever they run out, they grow some, and however that batch turns out, that's what you got for that fucking time.
It's terrible.
And so
Mississippi.
it is what it is. I've tried it a few times with LV.
It's terrible.
It is. And I mean, it's like almost like I feel like she shares those joints with people, so that people will be like, "Oh God, that's horrible. Take some of my weed. God bless you, woman."
It's like wearing people. It's like people always wear like old clothes.
I don't say that as like that she's a hustler or anything. I'm just saying like genuinely, if anyone has ever tried it with her, you probably emptied half of your own bag into her jar, of just being like, "Sister, take mine," because that's just god awful.
Exactly. No, it's like people wear. It's like people wear shitty clothes around me a lot of times, and I think it's just a way to get free hoodlums. They're like, "Oh man, if I wear really old."
You've never given me free fucking clothes.
I didn't say you. I never seen you wearing holy clothes.
No.
But I have a lot of people come with some scruffy ass shit, and they'll be like, "Man, if I could just get a hoodlum, they're all shaking in the corner like a junkie or something." I'd be like, "Yeah, it'd be great, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be great?" But it's not working, man.
I try to make
those
my
tricks.
abject poverty look classy.
Yeah. So, all right, we'll keep it rolling. Tell us. Okay, so tell me now.
So I went to.
Tell me now just about the 2012
secondary study with Colorado Cannabis, where they had this like mobile van that went and tested people and like all this crazy shit. But basically, the baseline for people, they did a test. For the first test was just about cannabis consumers and memory and cognitive function. And from that test, she didn't give us like all the data on it, but she was like, I realized that all of my preconceived notions were wrong. And I was like totally wrong about cannabis. And I was like, I have to study this more in depth. I can't just be giving these people, because the original joints she was using in her study that were provided by NIDA, that Ole Miss weed that we're just talking about, were at 3% THC. So and they were the joints themselves, and they had a protocol that she had to have her subjects meet, but she was able to negotiate with them and change the parameter of the protocol for her second study, which compared flower smokers to concentrate users and dab smokers. And that second study again was all male. So that's one thing as a science enthusiast. Of course, we were all like, well, we'll do a study with chicks. I'll be in it. And Mary and Martha from Dr. Cohen's office were there as well. And so ended up being a great conversation, because I had done that other science experiment with them, which was not the same experiment, but very, very similar. And their experiment was, the CU experiment was, of course, a little bit more controlled, couldn't take place on campus. So these people were partnered with this dispensary. They got a blind, either strain A or strain B, and they were assigned. And then they had to go into the dispensary and say, hey, I'm in the study group, and I'm here to pick up my samples for strain A. And they could, all they got was a jar, then it was labeled strain A with all the other state requirements, but it just said strain A, so they had no information. And one was a high THC strain, and one was catatonic, which is a CBD THC.
Yeah.
So the high THC strain was a blueberry diesel, and we know that because she disclosed that. We actually got to ask a bunch of questions, and so that was one of the questions that the girls from Dr. Cohen's asked, and that was so we knew it was blueberry diesel versus catatonic, and then the dabs were I forget what they were, but it's something that you guys would all know, some sort of like known name, and so it was basically it was like a 50-50 CBD 1-to-1 dab versus like the dab one was different. It was a 70% concentrate versus a 90% concentrate, and then she had done a different study on dabbers versus a CBD, but that wasn't part of this study, so I'll get to that later. But she did this study where basically was trying to see what their average baseline for regular consumers' blood nanogram levels were for flower users and for dab users. And so they had the two different strains. And she found that the people, especially with dabbers, who had been given the 70% concentrate, smoked so much more of that concentrate that they were given because they weighed everything that they were given based on this, they gave them this study period, and then they came with this mobile van to, check their blood levels and all this shit. So I thought actually was a lot more legit than the study I participated in. I mean, in and of that it was like a scheduled time where they were like, all right, you're going to start smoking at 3 in the afternoon. We are coming at 5:15, and we are going to evaluate you, and you can smoke as much of that sample as you can in that period of time. And we're going to evaluate how much of it you smoke and how much of it is left, and we know how much you started with and all of that. And so that, was a little bit more rigor than just, hey, get on that looper van and smoke as much of your own weed that you brought as you can.
Right, that's lame.
Still was.
No, it's better.
I liked participating in that study. Let me tell you, it was fun. But
you got to smoke your own weed, which is good in one way, but it's also if you're going to do the test, they have to have some idea of what the fuck in there. They can't just one guy smoking because you're also used to your own weed. I could drive a car and do whatever the fuck backwards if you're, eyes closed backwards driving 2 cars or something. No problem, dude. Fucking just put my hands in each wheel, but. The minute you smoke someone else's weed, it could be shitty weed, but you might get really thrown off your game. And be all, oh, damn, fucking weird. It's why that weed got me so high? It tasted terrible. And it's it can happen. So I wouldn't do that.
You'll recall when I was talking about that when I was on the show, whatever that was, a month ago, I said that I traded weed with the girl I was sitting in there with, Sarah, because I wanted to exactly that. I was like, let's trade up terpene profiles and see if that helps for science. For science, motherfuckers.
Just for science, of course. Anything for science.
I would. I mean, that's the kind of girl I am. So basically, going back to this thing, for the flower users, she showed that they had about 100 to 105 nanograms whole blood cannabinoids, THC, and for dabbers it was about 225. But these people were not showing significant impairment. And so when we got to ask questions, my first question was well, okay, so your arc and your graphs are real even. Did you have any people that spiked way outside of that, 100 or 225, in that corridor or way lower? And she said, well, we did have one guy who was smoking flowers who spiked up at over 1,000 nanograms. And one guy who was a dabber who was at 920 nanograms. And that those two people, for whatever reason, their metabolism caused their blood nanograms to spike, but she was unable to verify that they showed any different intoxication profile than any other test subject. Just that their blood, that when the blood results came back, they were like, whoa, look at these two dudes.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we all kind of know, too. It's that just means they smoke a lot all the time, and it's just there. You know what I mean? It's not even, doesn't even matter if you just smoked or not.
Actually, I would speculate, and I'm wanting to correspond with the woman from the study about this, and so that's why I just got the copy of the report so I could get her email, was to basically say that if somebody is not dumping those excess cannabinoids that if there's a baseline that most people are at and it's 100 or 225 or whatever it might be, but it's basic point where your body is going to just start dumping whatever cannabinoids it can't process and use, like out in your piss, because I mean that does happen, and it'll just dump it out. You know, it'll just process it out through your kidneys and your liver, just like it would with alcohol.
Right.
And my speculation and what I wanted to ask her back was like, well, did you do a blood screen on that person to see if they had
Like a preschool.
liver toxicity or like diabetes or like fatty liver disease? Because my first guess is if somebody was having a super huge spiking, is that I would start to look at that person for actual health concerns because of my years of working with patients. Like, the first thing I heard when I heard that was like, oh, well, you got 2 really sick people in your study who have some really serious like diet and health issues and are not able to process and metabolize their whatever they're consuming. And so their blood is going to spike without, I would assume those same 2 people would spike their blood with alcohol or anything else because they wouldn't be able to metabolize it.
Right.
And I'm not a doctor or a scientist. I just made that up. But that's what I think, and that's my theory. So, you know, you called me. I get to say whatever the fuck I want.
Well, and it's funny. Did they even respond like they were thinking they might jump in there and, you know, tell those people or tell those guys, like, hey, by the way, you may want to go check yourself out? Or they just said, fuck it.
No, she said that they had done like a whole blood screening on them and that, you know, she kind of like didn't answer that. But like I asked her some other questions about these outlier people. And then I wanted to send her an email following up and be like, did you check their liver levels? Like, what's up with that? Because like that to me tells me somebody's not metabolizing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that's what I would expect when I'm working with like a patient in hospice when their organs are shutting down. You know? And these were all like people who were on the college campus and were healthy people between like 20, they were all between 21 and 35 years old.
Right. They just don't know what's coming around the corner, that's all. They're healthy now, healthy on the outside, not on the inside. So, who knows?
This is basically somebody who's got a legacy of deep-fried Twinkies and Pop-Tarts is my guess. But,
well, at campus, now you're talking campus, the standard right there. That's dinner.
I don't know. I don't know, man. It's in Boulder. They should be able to get, like, fucking tofu stir-fry and shit.
You would think. So, okay, so I got...
So that was that.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No. Carry on.
No, I was just going to say, I have Blake Weil in the house. Hello. And I got a thing in my throat. Oh, need some water.
Look, someone has arrived there in the studio.
Arrived alive, yeah. So, your services are no longer needed. Bye. No, I'm just kidding.
I just, hey man,
feel so
I'm
used.
like that fat chick you can take to the prom when your date ditches you at the McDonald's on the way to the fucking dance.
That's it.
Fucking, you know, you make me feel very special, all you married men out there.
No, it's cool. But you can feel free to hang on and talk if you want. I just want to give my friend some time here.
I'm excited somebody has arrived. At the very least, I can do another bong hit. That'll improve my level of surliness.
There you go. And then you can stay in and jump on anytime you want. To wrap it up, so January 1st, give me just in simple layman's terms, what's the reality? So there's 12 plants total, 6 in flower, 6 not in flower. What's going on?
Okay, so what's coming on January 1st is technically for each adult in the house, you could have 3 plants in flower and 3 plants in like a smaller vegetative state.
That's stupid, that smaller part.
Unlimited 4-inch by 4-inch clones. But
Which
once something, I mean, like it's hardly viable, but before it's 4 inches by 4 inches.
I take them bigger than 4 inches. So it's like, what are you talking about? Sometimes, you know, it's like you're just like taking huge clones sometimes. Why not?
I concur. Yeah, the bigger, the better.
And,
I mean,
not always, but I've done it. I mean, and not only that, just like, isn't it 8 inches in the industry? So why is it different in the industry than it is on home grow? It's like we grow differently. We actually grow bigger plants because we have less of them. It kind of makes the opposite sense. You know what I mean? If you're going to be on a industrial size, you could probably get away with 4x4 and just be like, fuck it, whatever, you know, but they don't have to worry anyway. And then here we are worrying about our fourth plant or whatever.
They thought of whether, so this was part of the Med rulemaking. Why the Med is making rules about home grows clones is bullshit. That's part of 1220. It gave Med authority to make rules over home grows, which it should never, ever have. There's no revenue, which means the Department of Revenue's Enforcement Division should not be party to any rules that pertain to what we do in our homes and how we take clones for whatever purposes. I mean, this whole bill should be fought in court, but, you know, like, goddamn, wrangle, bangle, you know, that. Anyway, we're wrapping that part up. Someone new has arrived, you know, good times. So basically, in January, you can have 3 plants in flower and 3 plants in veg for each adult, meaning 6 plants in, so 12 plants total, 6 in flower, 6 in veg, and then you can have your 4x4s and keep killing them because none of them are going to come to fruition in time to put them into that veg. You know, it's like that's going to be a very tenuous situation to keep that little tightrope walk dancing and have enough plants alive. Have your 3 plants alive, take clones from them, and then have enough to be able to put 3 plants in there and replace it. And it's a lot of extra song and dance when you can only have 125 square feet, you know, or whatever the fucking bullshit rule is going to be next week or next month. So you'll be able to do that. But basically, you know, that's not really the bullshit. The bullshit is that any suspicion that maybe you have a 13th plant is now grounds to violate your 4th Amendment right to quiet and peaceful enjoyment of your private property. You know, and people always think, I always just take smoking weed, which is so fucking kick-ass and radical, back to something so goddamn boring, talking about like property rights and political policy and municipal codes. But this is why we keep getting fucked. Because we're all like doing a dab and being at some goddamn naughty nurse celebration when what we need to do is take to the streets with pitchforks and torches and be like, you lied. You lied to us again, and you're sending our fucking brothers and sisters to jail because of a plant. And that was what we voted not to fucking do. And this is bullshit. But, you know, people think I'm crazy. So what is going to happen on January 1st is that they are going to be able to come in and knock on your door and say, well, you know, we smoked some cannabis. And you'll be like, yeah, totally legal. Got my 12 plants. And they'll be like, well, we need to come in and count them. And it will not require a warrant. And it will be able to be, the police will be able to come. So basically, it now means that every single person in the state of Colorado who never ever had cannabis in the first place has lost their property rights because the suspicion that you might have legal plants that you're allowed to have in your house is now grounds for the police to enter your house without a warrant. This is what's super, super fucked up for everybody. I don't care if you smoke weed or not. That is super fucked up for everybody. So, you know, this is what gets me fucking going. I also enjoy smoking some fucking weed, which helps keep me from murdering people about how much losing my private property rights gets me fucking going. And basically, you know, this whole thing is just a sham. It's about civil asset forfeiture. It's about getting into people's houses and taking whatever we want from them. And if we sit here and we fucking, you know, we get these people and they're, you know, they're kind of like these kind of right-wing people. Some of them are in our community, but a lot of them are not. You know, a lot of them are conservative. Some of them are pretty religious. These people believe that, you know, possibly the government wants to come and take our guns. But they're gung-ho about taking our marijuana away, which means the government now has to, like, what have I said on your show at least 3 or 4 times? That in Park County, when they come in and they do an investigation on your grow, they take property for an investigation, and it's usually laptops, cash, guns, and small portable things like jewelry and things like that that are easily basically pawned. And they take people's handguns, and they take people's shooting and rifles and stuff. And then these people are cowed and afraid to report, like, hey, what happened with my marijuana investigation? And so they take their private property in asset forfeiture during an investigation, but they never charge a criminal charge, and they never return the property. And the number one thing in property that they take is guns. So the government, which is law enforcement, is using marijuana laws that these conservative fucking anti-fucking government gun nuts are fucking very much in favor of to come in your house and take your fucking guns. Which I find sort of fucking ironic.
Right. Yeah, but
because it is exactly what is fucking happening here. and they take it under the premise of, well, you had 13 plants, or you had 500 square feet, so we're going to take your handgun and $1,400 cash in a community that only has one bank, and like you might live an hour from that one bank in the entire county. So like having some cash in the house does not seem at all suspicious to me, but basically they're going to come into your house and take whatever cash and valuables that they can grab. They don't take soil, they don't take lights, and they don't take fans.
Mm-hmm.
They take guns and cash and jewelry and laptops. And they don't take tower desks, computers. So, they take what is convenient to them. And it's interesting, but it's a definite pattern of...
Well, it's what Sessions is pushing for. It's what Sessions is pushing for now, too. I mean, he'd love... That's like the one extension of the police, which is like it's literally causes corruption. You look at it, you're like, okay, so you're giving them the option to just go shopping in people's places that aren't even charged yet. It's like, that's exactly what we're doing. And yeah, it's disgusting.
Well, I'm sure you saw the news story of the Louisiana sheriff who said that he wanted to keep people who were good criminals who were just on nonviolent drug charges in jail longer so they could keep working in his for-profit prison.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it's modern slavery. It's modern slavery. I mean, we already, you can see it with the judicial system, how the American system works, and it's like, it's the same with the fires in California. They're paying people $1 a day or whatever, something, or $1. It was like what? $1 an hour. I think they were actually making. So if they worked a good 16-hour day, they're making $16 whole dollars. But it was like, and they had 10,000 of them, and I'm sure they had terrible.
No, they had lady prisoners working for $1 an hour, and at the end of that day, at that 16-hour day,
mm-hmm.
You know what you're going to get? Snickers and a box of tampons. Fuck yeah.
Right. And
that's really about what you might get out of that fucking day of hard work.
And you can imagine that they're not giving them good respirators to work with and stuff, so I'm sure that they've just got nothing. Here, you tie this T-shirt around yourself.
We call it modern-day slavery. I call it fucking eugenics. These people put them in prison to work them until they die. If you get too old, they're just going to fucking kill you. And that's, that's my opinion of that. I know. But I was giving you good news. There was exciting news about blood nanogram levels being at 100 instead of 5.
Well, that's something. That's something, I guess.
Yeah.
A little more realistic.
in my opinion, it's legal grounds to fight any kind of cannabis DUI that anyone may have received over the last several years.
Right.
In my opinion.
Not that there should be really any nanogram thing going on, but that's one of those. The whole driving issue is literally like how it all started for me, like in Holland, where I'd been living there for about 20 years at the time, and I was driving around. I got pulled over, and then I got treated like a real criminal, and I was just kind of like, well, wait, what's going on here? And like they say, oh, you were smoking cannabis. We have to draw blood. I said no, and it all just kind of went from there, and that's what made my decision to move back to America, because we were still at that phase where we hadn't even thought about that yet. You know what I mean? That wasn't even an issue yet. And now all of a sudden, 7 years later, it's much front and center. It's front and center. You know what I mean? So it's like, where's the next place? They haven't quite figured it out yet, because there's not that many left.
Everyone's like, yeah, let's move somewhere. I'm like, but where are we going to go? That's got I want to ski. I don't want to live on an island. I don't like to get sand in my ass crack. I like to visit that shit for like a week, but then I get over it.
Right. Well, I know it's tough. It is like Colorado definitely is losing a lot of its people just because, and they're going to lose more after January when people realize it's just not functional. Like it doesn't function.
It's going to take 6 months of people just getting brutalized for people to just start fleeing.
Yeah.
Property values will drop. That's the good news. But there's a lot of other stuff coming down the pipeline legislatively that's going to make Colorado really scary. I think for the medical patient community specifically, which is that they are going to have there's going to be these 6 opioid bills that are going to crack down on doctors, that are going to basically take practicing medicine out of a doctor's hands and say that a doctor can only give like a 4-day supply and then follow up with a 7-day half-dose supply. And then after that, if you ask for another 7-day supply of opioids, for any kind of medical reason, for any kind of prescription, you go down to a registry. So people who are like on fentanyl patches and like long-term maintenance are just fucked.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's going to be a really serious issue because they're basically making it to where these people are going to be told that they have to cut their opioids down and cut their usage down. And that's fine for people who are abusing them. But it's a serious problem for people who are dependent upon them for everyday, spinal cord injuries, cancer survivors, people that are definitely not abusing them and that are using them for everyday issues. And so I think that there's going to be a real upswing in street heroin abuse coming in 2018 and 19 in Colorado. I think there's going to be a real upswing in suffering for people who have pain issues, and I think there's going to be a possible real issues like consequences for doctors who are doing pill mills and stuff, which I actually have no problem with the last of those three things, but I do have worries and concerns for the patient community. Even though I would personally vow to help every patient, out there who's on opioids transition to cannabis for relief if they can find that relief, and I would do anything in my personal power to help somebody do so. I still think it just sucks to fucking cut people off after you've made them your monkey, So I'm not super thrilled about that. And, I think there's going to be some kind of serious action about clubs for social use coming in 2018.
In like a positive way you're talking about now, finally? Finally get positive? Or not?
No, not really.
Not so positive.
No, I think that there will be some sort of grab by industry to try to make it their baby and exclude any other newcomers or new ideas or cannabis grown at home or anything like that. So there still won't be a place for like gardeners and breeders and growers to come together and just be like, hey, check out, I did a 4-week cure on this, and it's this crossbreed that I did at my house, and I want to just show you guys this. And, to me that sucks because that's all I really ever wanted was to hang out with other cool people who were doing their own thing and talk about what we were doing and compare it.
So you think it's going to become like connected only to shops and they have their own little way of doing it and et cetera, or, because it kind of always comes down to...
I think that those people spent a lot of this summer toadying up on some issues. And I went to that special interim legislative session about the marijuana taxes where they got that shut down, which is actually good. Like, they said that basically we have the same taxpayer rights as any other taxed portion of the economy. So that was good. But in that meeting, there were a lot of cannabis lobbyists there just like slavishing a lot of money talk, and people were out in the hallways. The hearing part that I sat in for that tax bill, for that special session, that hearing started 20 minutes late because so many members of the panel, which was only 12 people on the panel, were out in the hall getting their poll greased by lobbyists from the cannabis industry. So, and I believe that because they got most of what they wanted in rulemaking, and 1220 kills most of their competition from home growers, or basically forces people into their market, the next thing they want is clubs, and then they want a lot of child-proofing laws and other things repealed so that they can do kind of more of whatever they want and have more money and more profitability. And basically they want to remove the laws that they imposed on the mom and pops 3 years ago to kill off their smaller game and competition. And have more money for themselves, and hurrah for the industry. So, that's kind of what I expect coming for bills about cannabis. One thing that's sort of been interesting, I think I talked a little bit about how I was talking to Jonathan Singer, the representative from Longmont, about the registry and the problems with the online registry. And he had said that he was going to be having some sort of meeting with the governor's office with him and Steve Lebsock, which would basically be 2 or more elected officials meeting to discuss private policy. So that would actually, public policy in private, which would violate sunshine law. But they did not have that meeting, and so they basically have been, putting on some dog and pony show where he said, we're going to talk about it at this meeting, we're going to talk about it at this meeting. So now, allegedly, there's going to be a meeting on, November 8th, where this may get discussed before the new year about the unconstitutionality of excluding low-income, rural, and elderly people from the marijuana patient registry because they can't use the internet. And so, blah, blah, blah. This has become a big issue because, I mean, obviously nobody who's out there listening to your show can't access the internet, so they probably don't care about the fact that there are a lot of people who could learn a lot from your show if they could even get the internet where they lived or could afford to get it,
right,
or anything like that. So, you know, there are people who use medical cannabis who cannot afford to have a smartphone, and, you know, they have to make that decision, and God bless them, but we should not exclude them from being able to access the medical cannabis registry just because they don't have a laptop and a smartphone.
Well, plus it's a shitty fucking thing anyway. I actually went to. It's funny because I tried to do it on my Mac and it wouldn't work for some reason. And I was like, "Oh yeah, it doesn't work on a Mac." I'm like, "What?" I hate when people say shit like that. I'm always like, "Who came up with this idea?" Right then,
What kind of state agency decided let's exclude, you know, 30% of the potential consumers?
Even more, because most people just try to do it on their phone too, and then that's a huge number. But anyway, so then I go down to the place and do it there, and even there, sitting with the guy, I even had trouble. I was like, sad. I was like the last guy in there. I was like, why am I having so much trouble with this fucking site? It was like slow, and it was jitter. It was really buggy and weird. Kept putting me back to the beginning of the page where I'd be like, pretty sure I filled this in like 6 times now already. I'm like, once again, and then here,
right.
you fill it in. You know?
That thing is like so fished out and like,
yeah.
Oh my God, it's bad, buggy bullshit.
Yeah.
But you know, I can't fight it on that, so I'm trying to fight it on I can't fight it on the flaws and the fact that it says the flaws are allowed and that you have no choice but to use it, flaws and all.
You need to have somebody hack it and crash it and just destroy it. Like, oh look, it's a big heaping
It
mess
already has happened twice.
Mm-hmm.
It happened in May. For fuck's sake. But yeah, I mean, this is exactly what I'm talking about. So that allegedly may or may not move forward. I don't know, but that's what I'm going to be personally working on, is trying to fix that so that there's no. I'm going to try to go back. I want to go back to the purple laminated fucking card in your wallet.
There you go. Back to the old school.
Yeah, I you know, sometimes you got to go back to move forward, and I am allegedly going to work
see you on the lot.
Help.
I guess I'll see you on the lot then, right? That's what it sounds like. See you on the lot.
I went to the Grateful Dead night at the Avs game last night. That was pretty fucking badass.
Nice.
Yes, but
cheesecakes in hand or what?
I did not sell cheesecakes at the
you don't have to sell them. You just bring them there. Get everybody hammered. Oh. Come on. Come on.
We did enjoy some lovely edibles. It was a nice evening, and there were tacos. You know, good time was had. You know, that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, well,
I just work here.
Sounds good. So I'm gonna wrap it up with you. I'm gonna do some ads, pay some bills, and then talk to my friend here. Like, wow.
Excellent.
All right.
I'm gonna scuttle away because my phone is dying.
Scuttle away.
And I'm gonna do some stuff, and then I'm gonna do some other stuff.
All right, we'll do some
bong. I have enjoyed ranting. I think I've effectively eaten up a portion of your day.
Oh, you did good. You did a great job.
And been treated like that chick who's only there, you know, when you need me.
Hey.
Fucking.
But when we're together, it's so good when we're together, right? You know, hey, trust me.
I'm the weed world's fat side chick. Fuck you all, bitches.
Yeah. All right, take care.
You know, and I'm not even fat. I'm kind of fucking hot for a fat side bitch, man. That's completely unfair.
All right, I'll get my moped. Meet me on my moped on the back. I'll see you.
Yeah.
All right. See you later.
I resent and resemble this fucking statement.
No.
All right.
All right. Well, me too.
Have fun.
Hashtag me too. Hashtag me too. All right.
I saw Rob Corey on Monday at the trial of Ron and Mark. So, of course, you know, like 10 minutes with Rob Corey was another Me Too for me.
I bet.
It's awesome.
Take care.
Well, another lovely Friday afternoon of debauchery and diatribe.
Yeah, no, it's a good one.
And,
we'll talk soon. Get you in the studio again.
You know, I look forward to it. I'll try to wear something holy and be draggled and hit you up for fucking new clothes and be all like,
oh yeah, no, I'm sure you will.
I'm a waste. You know?
Bring it.
Awesome.
Take care.
I'll practice my waif look between now and then.
Sounds good. All right, talk to you soon, Jessica.
Later.
Peace. All right, let's do this quick ads because we've got to do those things. That's how you pay the bills around here. We're going to do a reversal. We're going to start with Mr. Ron Wallace with the Wallace Original Wonder with his incredible pumpkins. This guy grows world record pumpkins like they're nothing. Dude. Ding! He just does nothing. Just flings a bean and it's all over. No, he does an incredible amount of work. The guy is like a... You can just tell. Look at the guy. He's a fucking workhorse. He's like 10-pound tomatoes, fucking 2,000-pound pumpkins. The most packed everything. But he's all about the rhizospheres, all about your root zone. So he's got awesome products for mycorrhizal products. If you know extreme gardening, remember this week. On the back of their Mycos packaging, which almost everybody who's a grower has seen, is a big giant pumpkin, and this guy's sitting right behind it. So he's been like dabbling in the weed world as far as like trying to get his product on the line. Now he's actually growing some product. I think I got him an article in High Times with Danny Danko soon. So let's see how that rolls out because, like I said, this guy's an awesome grower, and we can learn stuff from him, and now he's learning stuff from us as weed growers. So shout out to Cam also for introducing me to Ron in the beginning, and Cam's a competitive pumpkin grower in Connecticut, so it's, they take their shit serious, as seriously as this guy takes trying to kill himself. So it's like certain, everyone has their own thing they take seriously, and this guy's the shit. You can go to what is it now?
WallaceWow.com.
WallaceWow.com and check out the website. Tell him you came from the Adam Dunn Show. I'm sure he'll. He's the kind of guy with hand packing everything too. You know that. So when you're getting something, you order it from him, you're getting it from him. So pretty sure if you say Adam Dunn Show, he's going to be like, oh wow, boom, throw in something maybe. If not, just to pick the best one. He's got pumpkins. He's the guy if you want seeds. Since we're all, if you want to grow something like this, since you can't grow weed anymore, I might as well just grow competitive pumpkins. I'm going to grow them indoors. I'm going to do competitive pumpkins indoors in my barn there. See if we can. Boop. All right. Next we got Grow Life. Our guys who were on the show a couple weeks ago, Matt, explained to us how the company works. It's pretty much, if you're running a business right now and you're looking at how much product you're taking in and to grow your crops, you can maybe just give these guys your list of what you're looking for. They can do competitive side by side, get it directly from the distributors to you via them, of course, but in the sense of they're just taking a small piece and grouping it all and getting everybody a better price. So take a look. Like I said, if you're listening to the show and you're working in the industry and you have any kind of input, give it a shot. Go to growlifeecode.com and tell them you came from that Dunn Show also, and you're looking for a quote. Here's what I use. I spend fucking $6,000 a month. Boom, now you're spending $4,000 a month. Maybe even less, because you're like, Adam Dunn Show, it's $3,000 a month. There you go, just made $1,000. So check it out. You can also go to New Millennium if you know what you want and you want some real easy access nutrients that are 100% for growers as far as the way that you use them. It's all based on season, so it's super nice and convenient. And they've got a couple new products out now. They got the new Naria, which is the Carbonaria, which is their carbo load kind of stuff, but it's also got a lot of aminos in it. It's really, really good. They also got a brand new website, so if you want to check it out, you can go to their nutrient calculator, figure out what you need for your garden, not waste any time buying all the wrong stuff, the wrong sizes. They also work with some great products like Budswell, which is one of my standards, and that was one of the reasons I love their stuff. I was like, oh, this is and that's on their pro sort of formula, but you can use their full line independently, and it's, like I said, about 3 years, 2.5, 3 years now I've been using it. Love it. And they'll be on the show too soon with some of those new products to giveaways. NewMillenniumNutrients.com. Check them out. And, of course, Incredibles. I stopped by and saw Dark the other day, so it was incredible, dude. It was incredible. It was incredible to stop by and just see what's going on. But they have, surpassed everybody in this town when it comes to quality edibles and concentrates and extraction machines. They got it, and so one-stop shop in that way. They have all sorts of flavors. Seasonal ones right now, pumpkin. Haven't tried that ginger peach. That sounds pretty dope.
Yeah, it does.
And they're also going national. They're everywhere. You got them in Vegas. Well, they're in Nevada, California, Massachusetts, I believe. Is that on the list yet or no? Did you? I saw a little list pop up at one point, but
Little list.
It's
right here.
There it is.
No,
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts since 2010 in Colorado,
Michigan.
California. Oh yeah.
Coming soon in Michigan.
And Puerto Rico.
I don't know about that.
Maybe push back a little bit.
Maybe a little delay on that one. But again, if you need an extractor, you can go to the Incredible Extractor from them, and it is exactly how it's described. Incredible. They also have great in-house strains that they do. So if you're at a shop and you see their black label product, then pick that up knowing that it is coming directly from the Incredible Garden. And check out iloveincredibles.com if you want to see the site. And it's also brand new. Everyone's got new sites. Everyone's freshened up. They freshened up. And next on our list, we got Build a Soil. Build a Soil. This is the time of year when Build a Soil is loving life because it's kind of quiet. It's a little bit chill. Maybe. I don't know. Probably not because those guys are just going off. But springtime, phew, these guys are cranking it out. They'll make some handmade runs for you. 1 bag, 2 bags, 30,000 bags. What do you need? What you need, they got you covered. Also, for their IPM, their integrated pest management, they have all sorts of hard-to-find products. Also, pretty knowledgeable staff. You call them up, anybody you talk to is going to know what you're talking about, what you need. And if you manage to get Jeremy on the phone, then you got a wealth of knowledge. You can go back to a lot of shows on ours, episodes of him doing organics, breaking it down. Also, he's really good if you have any kind of issues in your garden, and he can help you diagnose it. We've watched him help people with literally like bought product off of him and had problems with it because when you're working with organic materials, sometimes you get weird batches, and they walked each other through it and managed to pull it all together and make it even better the next time. So that's the kind of service you want. You want guys who are ready to jump in there, and even if they have they fucked up. Oh my God, we fucked up. We gave you let's help you figure it out. That's what I love. You can go to buildasoil.com, and you can also go to 855-877-SOIL. Call them like the old days. Like, hey, whoa, somebody's on the phone. It's not a person. You gotta reach Build a Soil. No, it's usually people. They probably have an answering machine, but I'm sure there is normally people picking up the phone there. You can also guarantee you're going to get good service if you go to seedsherenow.com. Seeds here now. Seeds here now. When do you need them? Now. What do you need? Seeds. It's all in the name.
Right.
It's right there. You know what you need. You can check out all their monthly specials. We didn't do the 420 today because we started late and he was probably on. Didn't know what day it was. That's usually an indicator.
It sounded like, yeah.
It did sound like that. But you can also, so you can check out all their monthly specials. I'm sure we can scroll through it, but why not just check out the site and look for yourself, man? It's not that hard. Help them, get some traffic over there. But you can also guarantee that they've got the best in U.S. breeders. They have, there's some specials right there. You can read the specials because there's no way I'm going to read it from here.
All right. Let's see. We got the 888 sale, all Crockett, Ethos, BOG, Mycotech, Absolute. 888. Let's see. We got the Apollo 13 Haze special. Buy 1 pack of the new strain Apollo 13 Haze. Get 2 packs of Brothers Grimm free. And then the 3888 sale, all 5 packs from Homegrown Natural Wonders, THCs, Musco, and La Plata Labs.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
So actually, speaking of which, next week we're going to all be, there's going to be a bunch of people in town. We're going to have Sonny, Chiba, let's see, TSK will be here, too. And we have Odie's going to be in town. We have Dr. Hope Jones from C4. She's a former NASA astronaut, scientist. I'm just making up shit now. Former NASA scientist that's worked on TC with them. She's now works for C4. Okay, so then also we're going to have Adam Jacques in the house. We're going to have fucking Odie in the house, 2 in the house. It's going to be busy as fuck. It's going to be at my house probably too. Well, who knows? Might be here, might be there. We'll see. Busy ass show. What else? Is that it?
That was it.
That's it. Amazing. All right. Well, paid the bills. Now we got Mr. Wild in the house. Ding, 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 ding. Welcome back. Where you been? Everywhere?
I've been everywhere.
Get close to the mic.
I've been everywhere. I've been traveling quite a bit.
This guy. Okay, so obviously whenever people, because I was saying earlier, I was like, everyone's like going to want to know who the fuck, what breeder is named like Wild. I never heard of this guy because everyone thinks it's breeders on here usually. But I like the fact that what I said when I started the show was that the thing about cannabis is that people are like, who are you going to have on the show? And it's like, fuck, you can have anybody on the show, really. If they like weed, they come on the show, and we can talk about everything, and then just somehow, slip weed in there a little bit, keep the weed people kind of happy, but they get really bored if we're not talking about weed the whole time. It's like, what are you talking about? Talking about fucking what? This is not making any sense. But it's good because, you got to vary it up, and now this is something that's funny. Is the other day, me and Cece were like, how the fuck did we meet Blake Wild? And I was like, oh, we met him from... did we meet him from Clive Alive? No, I don't know. Did we meet him from... I don't know. Then we just all gave up on it. So how did we meet you officially? Because now that's how long it's been. So.
That was back in the day with A.G. Ferreira and John Hunt.
So it was Hunt. Guys, it was Hunt. Okay, so because that's what we said. She said it wasn't Hunt because I think we introduced him to Hunt. But then I'm like, I don't know. Was it? Did we?
Yeah, it was kind of like in that little
circular thing.
Three-way circle. Of
I got you. So Adrian and you were friends.
Which I actually was just hanging out with A.G. like 3 days ago.
Did you? Oh, nice. Cool.
Yeah.
And where's he?
He moved out to Wisconsin. He actually ended up marrying.
That does not sound good when you say it.
It's cold as shit.
Is it?
Yeah. But we just planted actually 22 trees. So
real trees.
Yeah, like real trees, like the big.
See, nobody
ones.
cares. Everyone's like, we're losing people left and right. They're like, trees? Oh, wrong trees.
Well, the fun thing is actually the whole reason why we were doing that is actually the last 5 years I kind of took off of base jumping and I started a arborist company in Hawaii.
So you're not doing crazy shit.
I'm getting back to crazy shit now. I actually just started again. I kind of got to the mental breakdown stage of business.
Well, you're up in trees all the time, so that's cool.
I'm not. I'm glorified office bitch.
Oh, this is not the Blake Wild that I know. The Blake Wild I know is like, so what mountain did you jump off yesterday? And he's like, I was doing desk work.
Well, that's coming back now. So because it did get to that point. And so I finally had a breakdown, and I went to Moab, and I jumped off of Tombstone about a month ago, and it was the first time in like 4.5 years I jumped off a cliff, and like instantly the moment I fell off, it was just instantly back, and I was like, what the fuck have I been doing to myself?
Right. Well, it's weird because I had a friend who was like, this is back in '87 or something like that, and he was a bartender in Florida, and a friend of mine, and like he was a crazy guy because I think he's gone over Niagara Falls more than anybody else.
Nice.
Like a barrel. He's done it like 3 or 4 times now, I think. And awesome. And he did it once. First, he got arrested, of course, because they always arrest you. But if you go there, they have his barrel.
Yeah.
In
the
there.
one on display.
Yeah, and he's
that's
like
awesome.
It's his mold of him coming out of it or whatever. You know what I mean? So, but he was still a bartender when I met him, and he didn't make him any money, obviously. And then he decided at one point after when I kind of I had moved out of the country at the time, but I heard that he'd done a tandem. He's the first guy to go tandem barrel.
Tandem barreled?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so he went with some girl, convinced a girl to go in a barrel and go off fucking Niagara Falls.
That'd be a hell of a business.
And I was already like, we were talking about this last week or something on the show for a second, because I was just like, how claustrophobic is that? And is it good or is it bad to have somebody with you? Like, it's kind of cool, but it's also like, if it goes wrong.
Yeah, I just feel like you'd slam into each other.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, if you're, to have a girl go over with you a little better than being by yourself, like, fuck, I'm trapped forever, and like, well, we're trapped forever. At least, that's like something, right? But it is a kind of crazy. I mean, and this guy was like, what he told me though was when he started, he did the pendulum swing things off of bridges, right? So he would go and put it over here, and then bring it over to here, and then jump off that side and do the big giant swing. And he was doing that in Florida a couple times, and he was on David Letterman. Because he was one of those first famous guys. Not famous, obviously, enough that I can't even remember his fucking name. He's so
infamous at that point.
He's definitely infamous. But he was wearing Dave's jacket, a David Letterman jacket on, and he jumped off the bridge. It was pretty awesome. I was like, damn, that's pretty sick. But yeah, I mean, obviously it's in your blood. Did you...
I have to do it.
Did you have any side projects going on though when you were doing it? Like, I mean, you can't just go cold turkey, right? You have to do,
I just went cold
motorcycle
turkey,
riding or something. Or?
I legit went cold turkey. This is where I was working like 7 days a week from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed. It was.
And you're doing
bad.
office work the whole time?
Yeah, well,
so
I was
weird.
building. I built 13 companies.
Oh well, that's something. At least, and so you weren't just doing someone else's.
No. I wasn't
you were
anything
actually,
like that. Like I was fully committed to the idea of building something up, and I figured I was going to be miserable, so I might as well move to
13
Hawaii.
companies? What's the point of that?
That was more for like kind of tax positioning and stuff on a lot of it, but it was corporate structuring and setting up for my equipment because it's in the arborist world. We have the highest workman's comp in the whole world.
I would think so.
It's
yeah,
absurd.
I would think. So what areas were these guys working out of?
Out in Hawaii.
Okay.
So we were doing all in Maui County, but we actually we really specialized in like huge tree removal. So like 180-foot eucalyptus, some pretty gnarly stuff.
Removal and killing, or removal and moving them?
Removal and killing. Like these are like dead standing trees and
right.
stuff. Because eucalyptus are an invasive species out there that's incredibly efficient grower, and they shed quite a bit. So it's kind of just one of those things where we clean up, keep things healthy. We were doing a lot of actual restoration projects on.
So you're in Hawaii? Are you based in Hawaii now, or no?
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Okay,
Well, and I kind of still bounce around, but
I got you. All right. Well, so it's not so bad. You're in an office in Hawaii.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
It's gotten better already.
Exactly,
It's like you went from Wisconsin. That when you said like Wisconsin and office work at the same time, it was kind of like
that's
that's
guaranteed.
the vision I had in my head. Was like, but if you're in Hawaii, at least you got that. So you've been surfing or something a lot.
I do a lot of free diving.
I figured there's something.
Yeah,
Whether it may not
the
be
free diving's the only one that I have, and it kind of keeps me sane. But it's
I gotcha.
It's kind of like flying a wingsuit. It's just a lot slower and
that's like you're hanging on to something and going to pull it down.
No, like I do a lot of like technical tunnel diving. So you go down and you actually have all this current that pulls you through different tunnels that are lava tubes.
That's cool.
It's really cool, man.
But
it's
this is all free diving, meaning no
tanks, nothing.
Nothing. So how long can you go down for?
I can hold my breath for about 3.5 minutes.
And then so when you're in the current, you ride that for like about a minute of the time, and then the other minute is kind of going up and down, or
yeah, it kind of depends on how deep you're going.
Yeah,
so I mean, the deepest dives that I do are about 100 feet. That's kind of touch and go. I mean, there's guys that can go way, way deeper. But,
and they're hanging on to shit though to get pulled down fast.
Yeah, sometimes they're doing those. There's different types of freediving competition. So like that's like the dynamic. I believe they take a shuttle that takes them down, and then they got a balloon that brings them back up. And then they got total freediving, which is no fins, nothing, and it's just swimming down. So there's a bunch of different ways to look at it.
Is that what you're doing mostly?
No, I like to go with my fins.
I gotcha.
I'm not competitive by any stretch of the means. I just like going and having a good time. And
you don't want to be too be efficient
so.
enough to get down fast enough, I guess.
Yeah. So.
Well, that sounds pretty cool too. It's like you said, it's kind of like it's got the same sort of flow maybe, but a little bit slow motion from what you're used to.
It's really slow motion.
And then not nearly as dangerous. Well, dangerous, I guess, in its own right. But so is it like which island are you on?
I'm on Maui.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's one of the nicest islands as far as amenities combined with everything, I guess. You know what I mean? Like there's other islands that have more Hawaii-ness to them. And
it's a great spot. And honestly, it's really funny because like I did back when I lived in Colorado.
You live in the middle, or you live kind of?
I'm on the west side.
West side. Okay.
Yep. I'm actually in what people consider the real touristy section, but I'm up north.
Like Pai area? I mean, whatever.
Pai? No, that's the
super
North Shore.
That's
the North Shore super touristy section.
Yeah, that's the other touristy.
So that's the funny spot. It's a good spot though. I like that town. Mm-hmm. But it's just
it's funny because if you sit there and you have like a cup of coffees, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I know that guy. Because all these people come to Amsterdam all the time.
Yeah.
And it's not, that's like, especially on like a Saturday or something, it's like everyone kind of rolls through for a second.
Pai is a hub, man.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
It's a good spot.
So, and you're, so you went there with your girl, or you got like?
No, I went there by myself as I said, about 5 years ago.
Damn.
It honestly, it kind of spiked about when I decided I wanted to take some time off jumping. Just because I had lost a lot of friends.
I was going to say, when last time did you come on my show one time?
No. It's the first time.
Maybe I just talked about it to you a couple times. I don't know. But in general, I was thinking, because last time that we had talked, I probably talked about it on the show where I was just like, yeah, a friend of mine does this stuff. It's crazy because like every time we talked, it was like, oh, just lost another guy. Or it was like, he had like a crazy.
It was getting intense.
Was it like 7 people or something like that?
Yeah, it was getting intense. We had a jump where 3 of our friends passed in one whole jump. So and that was a weather condition situation, and it got pretty real. I just had to kind of step back for a little bit. But I actually this last month when I went and jumped off Moab, I picked up a buddy of mine who I hadn't seen in 7 years, and we drove up and went to Burning Man, and it was like 100 of the base jumper and skydiving friends of mine that I hadn't seen in forever. And we went and jumped over Burning Man and hung out and had fun, and it just reminded me everything.
Yeah.
It's like, even with the loss, the sport's still worth it because you have this whole community.
Well, yeah, and then there you guys were doing more mellow, just regular jumps, right? It wasn't like.
No, that one was so relaxed. It actually was kind of funny because when I first showed up, I was pretty gung-ho to do a bunch of jumping, and my friends were like, dude, there's so much shit to do here. It's like your last thought's going to be skydiving. And I was like, nah, man, I want to do a bunch. And as soon as I jump out, do my first jump, land, I'm like, all right, there's way too much shit to do here. I don't care about jumping.
Well, that's a lot. That says a lot right there.
Yeah.
So how was the Burning Man besides this year? Because
it was mind-blowing, man. I loved it.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect.
Oh, you never been there?
I'd never been.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I never been. So I feel stupid now because I've been back for 7 years, and the first couple of years I should have just went for it, and then I didn't, and then now I got my kid, and I'm like, we'll wait till he's a little older.
They got like a whole kids land area too.
Know,
it's kind of a trip.
I know, and I know he would love it. My kid wears goggles like 24/7 anyway. Like that's his thing. So he'd be like, yes, everyone's wearing goggles.
Honestly, I even want to bring my mom. She's an artist. Yeah. Like she just got back from Italy sculpting marble.
Right.
And it's like one of the coolest things about it is just the amount of work and time they put into doing this art. It's incredible.
Oh, it is definitely mind blowing in that sense. I mean, every time I see, because we have friends who go every year, and it's like their photography skills get better and better because they go out every year to there, and it kind of like now you have to see it kind of through somebody like that's eyes just a little bit because. It's already so trippy, and there's already so much.
Dude, nothing does it justice. It's seriously, it's an entire mind fuck the whole time you're there. You're looking at this thing in the middle of the desert, and it looks like the strip of Las Vegas on steroids, and it moves. Like all these things are moving, so it's like every time you turn around, it's a different thing, and you have no landmarks. It's just chaos, and it's a ton of fun. Yeah, no, I'm definitely like torn every year because I'm like, okay, now we should get. It was also like the first. Maybe it was the second year that I was here, it would have been perfect because I had this one friend of ours from Cali who was like, kind of like he was at that level where he wouldn't go unless he had a helicopter. You know what I mean? He's like, I'm only going if I have my helicopter. And then I was like, oh yeah. And then he's like, you want to go? And I'm like, sure. Helicopter sounds good, right? And then like the last minute he got a little whiny. I was like, I don't want to feel like going. I was like, what? Because I had friends who were playing there, and I was like, I don't care if you just fly me in. I see my friend play and leave. Just even I know it's not enough, but I almost just need that that experience. That little experience. And then I was like, I could deal with that because it's either all or none. You know what I mean? It's like, and that would be a none for me. That would be like literally a none. Yeah. Would be that because I'd love to just at least experience it like that because I'd probably never do that again. And then every time after that, it would be the grind because that's kind of the way you have to do it. You kind of have to do it. You'd have to do the grind just to appreciate it. Yeah. And I feel I do recommend an RV though. The tent thing is total bullshit. Oh, 100%. Yeah. And you can't. And the problem with the RV is that you can't bring your own, or else you'd never. Oh God, it's just dirty forever. It's like that dust is. Like I was actually driving across the country to ship one of my cars out to Hawaii, and I brought it to Burning Man. And I'm not kidding, dude. I've detailed the thing 3 times. I've washed it probably 6 times, and there's still just that clay just peeling off my car everywhere. It's pretty funny, but it's a good time, man. A lot of people talk about it being like commercialized and shit now, but I'm like, the whole point is that it's supposed to be you can do whatever you want. Right. There's no judgment. Well, the thing that blew me away in the beginning and that kind of like made me a little nervous about going in the first place was just that I had friends who went every year. And they're Dutch, and they're like would go and build these incredible. They were like the guys who built some of the best. Like they built they built like a old ship. That was like one of the first ones they did, and it was sick. And held like 300 people or something. And it's just like, how the hell did you get all the things? And they're just like, they were rich, and they came from Holland, and they were taking it seriously, and they fucking planned all year. They had that shit. I don't know how they fucking managed to get it all together, but anyway, they would go every year, and they were telling me a story how they were going from back to their camp, and these guys rode up on like ATVs, which is kind of weird, you know what I mean? Because it's kind of like, and they're like, "You guys want to ride?" And they're like, "Nah, we're cool." And then, like, the second one came up and was like, asked the same thing, and they're like, "No, they're okay." And then this other girl was standing back and was like shaking her head, so they were like, "Okay." And then those guys drove away.
And the girl comes up and she's like, "Yeah, those are all cops." And then these
Really?
guys were Dutch because they were just kind of like, and the guys even asked, "Do you guys like weed?" And they're like, "No, we're from Holland, man." And they were like all confused. They were like, "Nobody smokes weed in Holland." And they're like, "I thought everybody smoked weed in Holland."
Just
And it's like,
give them the second.
and it's true though, they don't. I mean, these guys, they don't give a shit. They do a lot of drugs, but they weren't really weed people.
Yeah.
And then the girl was like, "Yeah, they're all cops." And then she's like, "But if you look, she carries these purple stickers with her everywhere, and
Yeah.
she basically goes up to anybody who thinks it's a cop and gives them a hug, and then puts a purple sticker,
on
and then
them.
everybody's like, "Oh, cool, I got a good sticker." And then she goes around and tells,
You do. High
"Hey, if you
five."
see anybody with a purple sticker, it's a fucking cop." And then so basically she said that there was a whole camp of them. So they had a whole camp of cops, and they were like playing really bad music,
Yeah.
and they were dancing all wrong, and it was just like,
Like, these people don't fit.
what is going? It's like when you look at their shoes, you know what I mean? You're like, look at those shoes. It doesn't even make sense. Like, why are they wearing those shoes? They're supposed to be in a gang. Like, that don't make sense. It's like always the same, you know?
Yeah.
It's those little details that they kind of fuck up on. So it got me a little nervous. I was like, because I know that's what Burning Man's a big information hub too.
Yeah.
And you gotta imagine everybody's on drugs and they're all like zipping around, and there's always like there's that guy who's just looking. So it always gets me a little nervous because it's like it's too obvious in a sense.
It's a wild place. I actually had one of my buddies got busted driving into Burning Man this year.
I bet. This what like
So,
just
it's just it happens. It's,
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
100%.
they're after it. I mean, it's like anything else in the world. That when an organism becomes that large,
Mm-hmm.
you know, there's kind of these microcosms that find themselves inside of it, and it becomes their own economies, even though the whole point is not that. But.
So back when we met, we also got all excited because, of course, we're like, ooh, this guy's a base jumper. We can give him hoodlum gear, and he can go and jump off shit, and hopefully he survives, and then we'll get the video, and we'll be able to use it. And then you were climbing and doing some climbing stuff. I'm going to go grab or you want to go grab me one of the doggy lambs?
Yeah.
Not the tiniest one, but the next one up.
Okay.
The tiniest one's a little too tiny. So, CC talked to you about it, right?
Yeah,
But you haven't
I'm
seen
stoked
them.
on this. I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, so I'm going to grab doggy lambs because that's our next new product. And what we were going to do is have Blake help us with the adventure dogs because he knows lots of people. That's the whole thing is you guys, I'm sure you got base jumper guys who have dogs that are like, yeah, my dog loves the base jump. And it's like I don't know if he loves I don't know if he really loves the base jump. I don't think he has much of a choice. He's like, you're jumping. You better not squirm out of the fucking thing, or else you don't like base jumping. That'd be it.
Well, it's like there's actually like
how's the reaction of the dogs normally? Is
Dean
like,
Potter had a pretty good video that he had. Oh, dude, yeah, that's sick.
So that's a
awesome.
smallish one here, but as you can see, little micro hoodlums.
Dude, that's badass.
Yeah, so they can snap forward, snap back. It's got the little chest. It's got the little chest piece, so you can have a little fatter dog.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of weight on it.
A little adjustability.
Yeah, and then it's pretty cool. Little thunder jacket, you know. Get him. So we're
My
gonna.
mom's dog needs that.
Yeah.
She just turns into a nightmare.
it's one of
30
those-
miles off, you don't hear anything, and she just starts shaking.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
So she's one size smaller, probably.
That one, she's a little bit bigger, but we
bigger?
got her a thunder jacket. Man.
Oh, yeah.
She's just a freaking. She's like.
She needs it now.
She honestly, this dog is so old. It looks like it's gonna die any minute. Like
Really?
it's really really bad.
Yeah.
She's a nice dog.
Giant bulbous eyes is one of those ones, or you always have the big
Kind of
big,
limps everywhere.
It's CC or
Yeah.
okay, yeah. CC's here while we're talking about so then she knows we're promoting out here. So yeah, we're gonna try to do a little campaign with that.
Yeah, I'm gonna track some guys down.
You gotta get some dog models for us, and I think it'll be pretty cool. It's also nice to know that now that you're eager to get back into doing your thing. It'll be like maybe now you can go in with the intentions of it's just work. Man.
Yeah.
It's part of a job now. It's not
Exactly.
necessarily, you're not wasting any time. You can't complain to yourself about it in any way, shape, or form. You're doing it for a real reason. Well, what is your plans? What's on your agenda for next action-based stuff?
Well, right now I'm actually getting my pilot's license. I got a buddy that I want to get into acro flying with.
Nice.
Do some stuff there.
Nice.
He's already a pretty acromplished acro flyer. He actually just got back from Poland doing the World Championships.
How much do those planes end up costing? You have to. Can you rent them, or it seemed like a kind of thing though.
That's something you got to really buy. It's
because no one's gonna let you fucking beat on their thing. Like, can I beat on a
Can I
plane?
just destroy your ridiculously.
How much those things
expensive
go
toy.
for, though?
Well, like when you get into the race planes and stuff, which are the aerial pilots.
What's going on up there?
It's a party.
It's a party.
Yeah, apparently.
Guess so. All right.
But
They're just hanging out there.
we get those planes in. I mean, they're not cheap, but it's like the same concept as buying a race car.
60 grand maybe starting.
You get into like
grand?
150 grand if you want like the
150
good
even,
race ones. I mean, you can get a nice plane though. The whole thing is like if you just want to be a pilot and just have a plane to fly, you can get a good plane for $50,000, which is the same price as a car.
Sure.
So I mean, they're not completely unreasonable. So it's just getting into the race stuff that gets a little bit more.
I think Nick's ready for the show to be over.
It's almost ready for the show to be over. I know. It's 6:11. Well, we're cutting it down. We're cutting her down to a 2.5 hour show this week instead of a 3 hour, I guess, because we started late. So that's the whole thing.
But
it's
also, real quick, the other one that I got coming up, and I was excited to tell you about, is I'm going to be going to Antarctica this December.
Oh, well, that's even better for us. There you go.
So,
that's like where
the
else?
Land of it.
Yeah, no, it's perfect for hoodlam gear and for obviously you're going to find a dog up there for us and you're going to have the hoodlum on the dog.
I'm also going to try and tackle a penguin and strap one of those on. So we'll see if I can work
tackling penguins I think is against the law, but that would be amazing because what's really funny is back in the day we did a flyer with penguins wearing hoodlums.
Really?
Yeah, and that was our and it was just kind of a joke because like they obviously don't really need hoodlums, but we had photoshopped them all wearing them in this big group, and they were and there was ones that were wearing them, and the other ones were all like, "What?" They were all kind of pissed off because they didn't have one, and the ones that were wearing them were looking all super fly. So it would be hilarious if you could. I mean, I don't think it would be. It'd probably be an ill-fitting mix because it's not quite the same, but just the fact that you tackled. I'm sure PETA we're PETA approved.
Will be all over
we're
me.
PETA approved, and so that might be the anti-PETA. We tackled.
Well, it'll be a friendly tackle.
We tackled a penguin and got a hoodlum on it. Now we've lost our PETA approval. Thanks, Blake Wild. That's exactly what would happen.
I'll bring it out. I'll see if they'll play with it. How about that?
Yeah, no, just even that, or just if you put the hood over them and let it just drape over them, that's good enough. That would be. That'd be gangster.
I'm just excited to check out some penguins. I've never seen a real penguin, like an actual big ass.
And so
penguin.
Antarctic is a sponsored gig, or what is it?
No, this one is actually this is kind of my coming out of retirement thing. I'm kind of just gonna do a couple things to focus on what I really love, and that's the flying. Mm-hmm. So this is a personal trip.
You're gonna fly there?
Yeah, I'm gonna go down to Punta Arenas in Chile, and then fly from there over to Antarctica, and then it's about a 13-day trip. Staying on the glacier, and we're going to do some skydiving, do some hiking. And,
so you're going to have a plane that you can fly, and then you and your buddies are going to jump out of the plane, basically.
Yeah, then we have another plane. So that's there's a big plane that takes you to Antarctica, and then once we're there, there's actually a Twin Otter, which is a standard big skydiving plane. So.
But are you planning on flying it just because you're going to be all excited to be flying, or are you just going to?
Oh no, I'm going to be jumping out of the plane.
Okay,
I just want to jump out. Yeah.
I just figured you might want it because what's funny is I have a guy here who I should introduce you to is a friend of mine, Matt, who's getting his pilot license now.
Nice.
And his whole deal is that he lives in a zone where I guess, there's some areas where you're allowed to just do stupid shit because there's no real sky things.
Like open space.
And so he said that technically he can take off from the closest airport, fly over his own house with a friend, and then one of them jumps out and then goes back and then picks him up and then goes. And I was like, so you're just basically gonna parachute back down into your house, then grab a sandwich, and then go get another. Then your other guy comes down and picks him up, and so I was like, that sounds like he's a total adrenaline junkie too, and he's like funny because he's you can just tell because when you're talking to him, he's so tense ready to go. And when you start talking about parachuting and drones or anything weird, he's just all about it and flying. So it's definitely want to link you guys up.
Absolutely, man. I'd love to talk to him.
And that's like a total of a 3-week trip, like overall. Or
that's gonna be about a 3-week trip. I think I'm gonna spend some time cruising around in South America a little bit while I'm down there. I want to go up to Brazil and go kite surfing through the dunes. They got all these sand dunes that have water in between them. And one of my buddies just got back from it out in Hawaii, and he's like, "You got to go." So
you fly from water to water? Or
so it's like all these dunes just have water in between them, and you can just kite surf straight down the entire center line. So it's pretty cool. I'm excited. But I was just getting back to travel, doing my sports, having fun.
Did you have sponsors that you were working with when you kind of decided to quit, or were you just kind of?
Yeah, no, I had a handful of sponsors that I was
stick with you, or
well, I was really fortunate. I had really great sponsors that genuinely had an interest in what I was doing, and it wasn't just about the other side. But I ended up kind of just petering out just because I didn't want to be involved anymore on that side. I kind of saw the sport going in a direction that I didn't really agree with, and so I made my last little efforts, but it was getting pretty rough. But then again, after just doing my jump again last time, it brings it back, and I want to do it as a passion project from now on, and really kind of just see where it goes.
How is the sport? How is the sport after you left for 5? Because 5 years is a long time. That's like a lot of things happening.
It's nuts, man. It's nuts. I still kind of followed a couple of my buddies and kept up with what was going on, but man, they have just blown it out of the water.
Yeah.
I mean, what these guys are doing in wingsuits these days, I can't even wrap my head around it. It is mind-boggling.
Is it like how, I mean, cause think about motocross too. Like back in the day, you'd be like, whoa, super jump, and now it's like they actually stay on the bike. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
These guys are like off the bike completely, make a sandwich, get back on the bike. You're like, holy fuck, dude, are they doing all that? And
it's the equivalent of that.
And so they're doing crazy
It's
things you
whole
thought you
different
couldn't
world.
do.
Yeah, 100%.
Forward rolls while you're moving it.
100%. The shit that they're doing is insane.
Is it because of the suits getting better, or is it because of just the people
suits are getting better,
pushing each other?
But it's the pushing for sure. Pushing always gets a sport to go, and a lot of people call it the Red Bull effect. And you can say negative things about it, and you can say positive things about it. To me, at this point, having seen both sides of the good and the bad, I don't really give a shit anymore. It's kind of just a part of the sport, no matter what.
I mean, how many people actually make money with wingsuit stuff?
There's a handful. There's a handful that are doing it. Like, I kind of predicted that wingsuiting was going to start to pick up in the 5 to 10 year range and become a more popular activity for things in movies, promotion, and it's working out pretty much in line with that.
Because it's weird too, because there was it seems like there was a peak for a couple of years ago where it was just like one after another videos and things.
Yeah.
And because of Red Bull, I think a lot too.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, in the last couple of years, I haven't really seen much at all. And I'm sure it's all going on. It's just not.
It's going on. It's just they've redirected the branding of it. And this is kind of what I was warning them at the beginning about. I was like, we really got to start to reach out to more audiences, not just ourselves. Because if we don't reach out to audiences, number one, they don't understand. It's the same thing as marijuana. When it's misunderstood or misrepresented, people come in with preconceived notions that are completely false. But it's what they think and what they think they know.
What about that French guy with that crazy...
The jetpack?
The hoverboard
The
thing.
jetpack guy?
Yeah, well, they turned, and then he had that the hoverboardy thing that was just...
I haven't seen the hoverboard one. The one that I've seen is the jetpack guy, who actually is a group of Colorado guys.
No, there's a French guy. There's that French dude with the... You have not seen the hoverboard?
I have not seen the
I feel like
hoverboard
I'm
guy.
giving a first dab to some weed guy. It's like the weed legend who's like, never had a dab there, man. Let me tell you. Well, the French dude, I just put in, I'll put French hoverboard. It'll pop up. It's like... That's why I was wondering, is this fucking real? Am I tripping? But I've seen it a few times, and I've been like, seems pretty legit. It's just a matter of, because it's making a shitload of noise, that's for sure. It's not, but it's moving at such a rate that you're just like, wait a minute. If this is not military at this point, you got to imagine that they have fleets of these guys coming in with guns, just ready to take out people.
The old Rocketeer movie.
Hoverboard. Can you look it up on your thing there real quick? French, go hoverboard, French. You know me and my keywords, they always work. Hoverboard, French, boom. Here it is, first thing. Hoverboard, this thing.
All right.
Oh, skip the stupid. Hold on. Yes, I think. There it is. Fly boy, you can turn the sound.
I'm Frankie Zapata.
Tiny bit.
Today I will try to break the record.
Ah, the record. Yeah, Zapata. You know this guy?
Zapata, no.
280 meters to break the record. I'm feeling to be stressed.
Okay, I'm on the same one, so. Well, anyway, when I first saw this thing, I was like, are you kidding me right now? Like, this is it. We finally got stuff that I would love to freaking, like, see, you can see it pushing water, too. I mean, have you not seen this?
I've never seen
this. Have you not seen this? It's pretty legit, right?
I don't know. I'd have to check that out. That just seems crazy advanced over the other stuff that I have seen out there.
Exactly. Now I've been out for 5 years, and look what's going on, dude. Adam's pulling up some weird fake hoverboard shit. No, I think it's real. I mean, the fact that he's getting chased by all the things and you can see the blast.
I'll
in the
do
water.
some research. I'll find out for you.
Yeah, Zapata's the guy, and he made the one with the water. He's the guy who made the water thing.
Yeah.
You've seen the water
Yeah,
thing.
I know the water one.
So then he said,
Isn't Zapato shoes in Spanish?
it could be. So maybe
His name
that's-
is Shoes?
So yeah, he's maybe he's a fake ad for shoes or something. Yes, and you wear shoes too. I don't know, but anyway, that is the guy who made the water thing, and then he made that thing, and I was like, all right, well there you
I
go.
have to check it out. All I know is that the jetpack guys, those ones I can guarantee are real. And that
they're here in
shit's
Colorado, you said?
nuts. Well, there's the jetpack guy in Colorado who does the actual like it's a jetpack on your shoulders, and they're Colorado guys. But it's actually my buddy Boyd who has a gum company called Apollo Gum, and it's this energy gum that he had done way back in the day with his buddy who was the Go Fast guy.
Oh yeah.
And Troy from Go Fast was, he was a skydiver that invented some equipment and started this whole thing. But their whole thing is they just like charging and doing random weird shit. And
Right.
it's like the jetpack. I was talking to a buddy of mine, Matt, a couple months ago, and they were doing this project up in a high alpine lake, and he's like, yeah, hey man, like on scuba diving, like do you know anything about like rebreathers and stuff or mixed tanks? And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, I'm just trying to figure out for like high alpine diving. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, we're launching a rocket out of the water. Of course, why wouldn't you guys be? It's just they're a bunch of mad scientists,
Right.
and I like honestly, conversations with those guys are just the most wonderful things on earth because it never comes out of somewhere where you expect it to. It's just absurd communication.
Is there any events coming up that are kind of like besides X Games? I mean, besides the obvious.
Not really. Coming into the winter season, this is kind of our off season.
Yeah.
Because most of the jumping's in the northern hemisphere.
I was gonna say they don't go to like South America and do it.
Well, like we do Brazil. 2013, like right before I kind of retired for a bit there. I was in Brazil doing a wingsuit race up in this little teeny place called Pedra de Onza, and it was we were in the middle of the jungle. It was a really cool trip, and it was a lot of fun. So we had a good wingsuit race with I think about 20 of us. It was a good project.
Did we talk about, remember before when my friend Regis, who works for Red Bull, we were talking about paintball slalom?
Oh, dude, yeah, that still is like my dream idea.
Okay. It still hasn't happened yet?
No, that's the one I want to do with my speed flying. I want to get like paintball guns to mount on your head with
you
like
got to.
bite triggers and fly down and start shooting each other dogfight style.
Exactly. Well, okay, I'll try to make that happen.
So glad you remember that.
I will try to make that happen. No, it's one of those things where I was always like, man, if they haven't done that yet, someone has to do it.
It has to happen. I'll put the guys together for that.
Because that would be like such an awesome video that would make people freak out and be like, oh, that's all I ever wanted to do before.
It'd be so much fun.
Stuff off my head. But yeah, it would be awesome. I mean, I can see it. I can see it being very possible now. So
yeah, I'm in for that for sure.
Cool. All right, we're gonna wrap it up. So you gotta have a website that people can check out. You have any kind of like? Did you ever make like a page?
No, right now. Well, I was back in the day, but then I kind of after I walked away from it, I haven't done anything. And honestly, I'm probably going to be a little bit more on the silent side and start promoting some of my buddies that are already out there.
So you got
but there's guys out there that are just phenomenal and just crushing it right now. If you go on and Google them, I mean, you got Yaki Summer, you've got Scotty Bob, you've got Dukes, you've got, I mean, just incredible guys. Squirrel Wingsuits. If you just follow those guys right now, they've got crazy videos that they put out. And if anybody's ever interested in it, like what the physics is behind it and how much thought goes into what we do, good buddy of mine.
How much thought goes? Let me ask you.
Yeah.
How much thought actually goes into this?
Tons.
Okay.
Beyond tons. I mean, it's all the physics of angle of attack, understanding your pressure, and everything.
And what do you learn off each other, and then
Yeah.
like, so one guy does it, some guy crunch numbers. Is there a number cruncher guy that's
Well,
out there that's like?
It's kind of group effort when it comes to that stuff. So it's like it depends on what skills people bring to the table because base jumpers are everything from your average Joe Schmo that works at a bar to an astrophysicist.
Right.
And it's like I mean they're coming up with shit all the time. But it's people just fall into
how do you
their
tackle a
places.
new place? Like what would be the
A
protocol?
lot of Google Earth. Spend a lot of time on Google Earth, and you can pin it out and map it, and you look at the elevations. Then you go and you do.
There's like a formula that you must follow to even be within acceptable range or something.
Not so much. I mean, you just kind of scope it out. You find something that looks like it'll be good. Then you go to the base and you actually check it out from the ground. And then you hike it and you bring your gear because it's probably jumpable. You check over the edge, make sure that it's clean, and then you go. And then you just fly super high and keep it super safe the first time, unless, you know, you're like my buddy Carr, who's a lunatic Russian, and he just goes hardcore on his first jump every time.
Right.
But I mean, then you get like a nice safe kind of exploration of what you're doing, and then you just dive in deeper and deeper every time.
Yes, I mean, it's definitely how about the different kind of just conditions? Like, I mean, obviously, you're mostly in high altitude, I would assume, since you're coming from jumping. But
not in Norway,
but then again, I was going to say you might be in areas that you're in. Now, does that affect it?
Hugely. So it's like the higher in altitude you are,
the faster you drop.
Yeah, the faster you drop, and you're not going to get it's like where it affects you the most is actually in your start. So like there's a wingsuit base jump up on Long's Peak called the Diamond, and I mean it is a wingsuitable jump, but it's not a very good or comfortable one because it's an 1,800-foot drop. And actually now with the new wingsuits, it's probably fine.
Yeah.
But it is one of those ones where it's such a high altitude at 14,000 feet, your suit doesn't pressurize because it just takes time before the air fills it up. Whereas at sea level type jumps or 6,000 feet,
I was gonna say it seems like it'd be more
slams open right away.
So Brazil, places like that are always
exactly.
like super easy because they're really not easy, but
it's nice.
Yeah,
It's like Norway is my absolute favorite because you get big cliffs and you get to jump and land at sea level. So your parachute's working at max performance every time. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah, that's a good thing to work. Like, yeah, my parachute worked. That was good. That's a good thing.
But that's like to learn all that stuff. It's my buddy Rich Webb, who was a F-18 fighter pilot, test flyer for the Air Force, and but he runs a page called Top Gun Base, and he's actually like an English major, so his writing skills are phenomenal. But he finally got to the point where a couple guys were talking to him. They're like, "Dude, you gotta write stuff and help people because too many people were dying."
Yeah.
And so he came out and started writing about the physics of it and helping people understand it so that they can do it a better,
Is there a wingsuit
way.
for dummies book out yet? Or?
I'm pretty sure everyone is. Every single book about wingsuiting is for dummies.
Yeah. I mean, would be a funny one just to give to people.
That would be that would be good. Although Dukes' book is called Confessions of an Idiot, so I mean,
right. Well, I mean, what's the average lifespan of a base jumper as far as like?
Jesus.
I mean, how long? What's the oldest guy?
The oldest guy.
I mean, not even the years of jumping, but is the oldest guy.
There's guys. There's honestly, I don't know who would be the oldest, but there's definitely guys in their 60s that are still jumping wingsuits pretty regular. And there's some seriously competitive guys in the older age ranges.
That's interesting.
So,
I mean, I guess it's a super, because I mean, anybody in their 60s could not have started this until they were in their mid 40s at the latest, let's say, or something. But how long has it been? 15 years?
Like,
how long?
Wingsuiting's been around for about, God, I don't want to be inaccurate on this, but I want to say like 15 to 20 years.
I was going to say late 90s.
Yeah,
like that.
And that was,
20 years,
a couple guys that came up with that, Patrick and Robert and a couple other guys, and they invented the wingsuit. And I have a couple buddies, like one of my buddies in Brazil, he was there testing the first wingsuits with them. And if you ever want to hear some interesting stories, talk to those guys about a couple of the first models. They didn't really know what they were doing. But yeah, there's some guys that have been around in it from the very beginning, and they're still here.
That's a good sign that at least it's not as, I mean, it is crazy, we know that, but it's not.
It's honestly the decision making. It's so dangerous. It's really hard to hike for 6 hours, get to the top of a cliff. You're looking at your car, and the wind condition isn't right, or the clouds, and you're just like, I have to hike back down this shit, and I can it's right there.
Yeah. It's just one jump away.
Yeah. So it's like it's complacency and just kind of that shit that
I can
really
imagine. I can imagine.
But,
all right, well, let's wrap this up because MTI's got to hit the road. He's got gigs to play. You got gigs? What do you got?
No, just
got to cook dinner.
Weekend plans.
Oh, weekend raging? You going raging?
No, not yet. Maybe later this weekend.
Those guys that were in town, they're friends of mine, so they were like, "It's his birthday. We're gonna go out and party." And I was just
nice.
It's like, nah, I don't think so, dude. I don't think it's gonna happen, but maybe tomorrow. No, who knows? Well, thanks for coming through, making this show happen. And it might be, it's possibly could be the last show in this place. We're gonna be moving out of the Sohai Gallery, so boo-hoo, gotta leave. It's all right. When doors shut, when one small door shuts, like a gigantic kind of thing opens
Whole
up. So
porthole opens.
yeah, like a huge, gigantic fucking door is going to open, and a few are on the work. So we'll keep you guys informed. I want to thank Blake for rolling in the studio. Haven't seen him for a while, and I want to thank Jessica for calling in, like lickety split like that. It was perfect. Always good to get some depressing news and give me reasons to want to leave Colorado every fucking time. Like, geez, am I out of here now? Again?
I liked her. I could get down with that skating kind of information.
Yeah, well, you need it. You got to have it every so often.
Exactly.
And it's important stuff. Next week, like I said, we're going to have Sonny, Odie, Adam Jacques, TSK, and ex-NASA scientist, not an astronaut, but I can imagine if we want. And
full show.
It's going to be great. What was her name again? I'm terrible with names, of course. Let's see. What is our guest's name? Who knows? It's gone. Got no guests. God. Sonny, here we go. Dr. Hope. That's right. So we'll have Dr. Hope, which I should be able to remember, Odie, Adam Jacques, 2, and Sonny in the studio. See you guys next week, and big shout out to Cece, my beautiful wife, upstairs with little Nick, who's not so little, and he's running things. I'm surprised he managed to do a good job. He came in a little wild, calmed him down up there, heard a few things flying around, but for the most part it seems okay. Shout out to Ace down at the farm. Shout out to the boys. And we'll see you guys next week. Peace.